Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Why We Love Doctor Who. We're into part 19 of these streams, and we're off for series 9 of Peter Capaldi. So, as always, I'm joined by John the White, Burrenjaw, and Golden Age Geek. Good evening or good afternoon, gentlemen, and how are we all today?
Oh, great.
Oh, brilliant. Everybody's wonderful. Awesome.
So just to let you know, my niece is up visiting me. Well, my sister, they're in the other room now. Well, it's okay, but like, just if you hear like a wee, like mad baby go, that's her. It's not me.
You sure? I think it's just an excuse, to be fair.
Conjures up images of a Monty Python sketch, like an Eric Idle voice coming across the back. Yeah. Oh, don't say that anymore. Stop it. No, don't. You know, that sort of thing. You know?
I taught her today. I taught her how to do at least part of the Doctor Who theme. She was going, wee.
Oh, cute as a button.
Yeah. It's an insane cute wee thing.
Well, we've already got 3 of the chat, so good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you're from. To Charles, nice to see you, mate. It's the first time you've been in the house.
Welcome to the house. We've got Papalaz and Sadako in the chat ready. Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the madhouse, really, to be fair, at the moment. But and just a heads up, guys, if I suddenly go quiet, I'm expecting a parcel, so I may have to step out and sign.
Oh my word! Yeah, anything could happen in real time during one of these.
Well, it's my moon-based technical manuals arriving today, so I'm not going to.
Ooh,
yes, I'm not going to miss that. So,
well, you got. I'm not surprised you're watching your post spots very closely with that coming.
I'm itching for this one. So, in any case, so if I do disappear and don't answer, that's why. So I'll let you all know I'm going in any case if I need to go. So.
Right, you are, Gobby. Right, you are.
Done all the admin. Let's get on with it.
Yes, our destination this week is, of course, New Who Series 9. But just before we launch off exploring the ins and outs of the season, we have a little something has happened today on Twitter that we know that everyone would like to know about. Which is a somewhat notorious account. Dr. Grimlock has been permanently suspended. No coming back. No way, not ever. Goodbye by Twitter.
Well, until about 13 hours ago when he opened up a new account, they said he couldn't open
up. He's got his alts. He's got his alts.
Actually, I'm looking at it now, and it appears that his count is still there.
No, it's Doc Grimlock, not Doctor. You see,
it's one of his alts that's up there now.
So there are some alts, but they've also are on a short leash. Let's put it that way, and we don't expect them to hang around terribly long. But the main thing is that this isn't just your average Twitter troll. This person's been really very nasty and very toxic. I mean, they've said horrible things about me and Gobby, but, to be honest, we don't care all that much about that. No, that is water off our backs. But this is the sort of person where they found somebody that they could pressure or that they can intimidate, they went all in and kept on going all in, especially if that person was female.
Yes.
Well, and there is a number of women in the fandom who we know who have had very serious upset caused by Grimlock to the point that police have been involved. Yeah. And, so there are many people with many good reasons to be happy to see that this guy, who's abused his Twitter account for years, has finally had to pay the price of losing it.
Well, I just want to say that I've not been involved in any of this. I'm not going to offer any opinion because, as I said, I've not been involved in. I didn't even know this person existed until earlier today when I saw one of you guys tweeting about it. So I'm only saying this because I've been involved in so much fandom drama over the years.
Oh, I agree, and it's only as important as it is. But we do know, that because he's especially targeted this stream. And he told extremely malicious lies to Ian Levine, which created a very nasty, toxic situation after the interview we had with Ian.
Certainly did. Certainly did.
So he's directly attacked these streams while we've been making them. Yes. As has this long-standing MO of just most vile, slanderous libel. This one was a good result.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, don't forget,
move on.
Just before we go any further, don't forget this is the guy who has actually sent actual death threats to several of us.
Yeah, actual death threats.
Death threats. Yeah, so he gets.
Well, actually, as it happens, this account got nailed because on the first day of Pride Month, they directly called for the killing of anyone who is a TERF.
Yes, and put a list out of us lot
directly called for violent murder of others based on their beliefs. So this is not in any way a decent human being.
No, certainly not. So, any case, let's move on to something better.
Right. Yes, indeed. Now, Sadako, I hope the panel has got a good response to this, because Sadako is telling us, I've been marathoning Series 9 with intense cramming this week. Now, we can all say the same, can't we, gentlemen?
Sorry, got something in my throat then.
The absolute silence is kind of suspicious, Dobby.
It's okay, I've seen it lots of times. So
I've seen it lots of times. It's all right. I know what's what. Golden Age Geek, how well do you recall the first half of Series 9?
Well, to be honest, with all of these episodes, I kind of remember them all off by heart. All off by heart, just except for names in particular. That's where I struggle. But I know the episodes off by heart. It's just the names of certain characters, because especially it's a sci-fi show, so you have some weird names.
Weird names.
I'm very pleased to hear that, Gobby. I think, as a sign of good faith with Sadako, to show we do put the work in.
Yes.
Golden Age Geek should start us off with the Witch's Apprentice this week. Go.
Magician's Apprentice.
The Magician's Apprentice.
Yes. You get your next two mixed up.
Magician, Familiar Apprentice. That one.
That's the one, yeah.
Part one.
Part one.
So we start off this episode in a similar way that the opening to Series 6 started. And the episodes are very similar in that aspect, because the Doctor believes he's going to die. I mean, I don't know how, that just happens. He says he's going to die. And then we get a flashback to him on a battlefield where he encounters a young child who's in a very inescapable situation. And he asks this child, what is your name? And he says Davros. And of course, we know who Davros is. So, we have this child, and referencing back to the Fourth Doctor story when he gives the big dilemma of, would you kill the child who would grow up to be a ruthless dictator? So the Doctor is sort of faced with that internal dilemma. But
there's a pretty good chance the audience knows who Davros is. But even if you don't, the Doctor's reaction tells you that Davros is good news.
So the Doctor's gone off into hiding, sort of in shame, because he's sort of caused Davros in a way to become the way he is. So Clara, of course, is trying to hunt him down, and she notices that all the planes have just frozen in the sky. So they do a bit of investigating with UNIT. Then they discover that Missy's behind it, and I'll say that I don't think that she needs to be in this episode. She doesn't really serve any purpose. She's sort of there to be annoying. Yeah.
Well, there is that.
Should never have been made. When Stephen Moffat handed the script for Dark Water in, he should have been fired. That's all.
Let Golden Age get this done. Come on.
Sorry.
Just rip the legs off it afterwards, guys. Yeah, go.
So Missy determines at what point in time the Doctor is staying at. So they both go there, and he's playing a guitar on the top of a tank. Quite honestly, I think that's just for cool trailer shots. That's probably the only reason they did that. And then we have this snake creature, sort of an agent of Davros, coming to hunt down the Doctor, and he says he's going to die. He's there to bring him to Davros. And they got taken, and they believe themselves to be in a ship going to sort of a void, as it were. but they actually find out that this is actually Skaro. And we see an interaction between Davros and the Doctor, and it's sort of a final confrontation between the two, because the Doctor believes he's going to die, but Davros, in a way, knows that he's dying, and a weird sort of thing happens in the second half. But as punishment, Davros, we think, exterminates Missy, Clara, and the TARDIS. So then we're left with that massive cliffhanger at the end.
Yes, that's a very good part one summary. Yeah, well done. Very good. Very good.
Bravo. Yes.
Right, okay. I've had trouble with Series 9.
Yes.
I really have. Because the whole theme of this live stream is why we love Doctor Who, and I've tried all along to be about focusing on the things which are really great. The big problem I've got, which is going to apply to anything I say about the episodes we're going to get to tonight, it's all the same problem. The acting from Capaldi is absolutely marvelous.
Yeah.
The stories suck.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. I know, because we suck in different ways and different levels, and we'll be talking about that. But I think I was just thinking today about how different the start of Series 10 is to the start of Series 9. I know I'm getting ahead of myself slightly, but we can acknowledge that Series 10 is a literal reboot. But Series 9 is also a reboot. So every year of the Capaldi era, Stephen Moffat tried to reboot the character to get it to work better, by whatever definition of brackets better. And this episode is, if you liked the direction of Series 8, this episode is an overt act of vandalism.
Yes.
And fandom at the time was having tremendous trouble with the Doctor on the tank.
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't.
And I think that we've got to make sure that we get into that. Because, how much did Series 9 try to retcon the Doctor's character to make him more like 11? Which is the accusation that people are always making about the changes that were made in Series 9. So we need to address that question. As far as the story goes in the first half, it's functional enough. It's just doing weird things. In that you've got the airplanes plot, which is all or nothing. It's just an excuse to have a conversation between Missy and Clara, so Missy can say, I've got this mysterious thing, and let's go find the Doctor, and here's the time bracelet. It's just to make that go. So the first 15 minutes are just faff, really. I mean, they have no function other than creating a mystery about Missy being back.
Yeah.
And, I agree with what's been said in the comments already here. Michelle Gomez was great in this, but Missy's still a mess of a character.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that, and I think the Missy character didn't get straightened out until halfway through Series 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or at least in some kind of character that I felt worked. Which it doesn't in this. It is an eclectic mess. And, you've got to roll with it if you can, really, because the performance doesn't give you much of a choice. But there is stuff I like in it. I mean, I did like the discussion about contemplate friendship, micro monkey brain, or whatever the line was. I actually liked that, because the one thing about Missy that I like is that she stands up for no hanky-panky between Time Lords and humans. So that's kind of ironic, But the colony staff was an interesting character. I mean, it had menace, the travelling around trying to find the Doctor bit. The hanging around on Khan stuff was a little bit cringe, I think. All a bit very coincidental, But the planet you can't see that turns out to be Planet of the Daleks, all Clara, Missy, and the TARDIS are all dead cliffhanger. Did at least build some stakes. I mean, it made you think, I'm going to have to see how to get out of this next week.
Yeah,
even though they shortly show you what they do get out of it next week.
Yes, of course.
Point a little bit. There you are. You know, it's Stephen Moffat letting you know, if you tune in next week, you find out how clever I am getting them out of this.
Yes. Yes.
So, what do you have to say on the witches? The Magician's Apprentice, Virgil?
Well, I thought it was absolute shit, to be honest.
Unleashed.
I mean, here's the thing. At the time, I really tried to find something I liked in it because I'd had quite a bad experience. I mean, Sadako will probably remember this in the Doctor Who IMDb forums for being so against Missy. So I tried to, I was kind of bullied basically into finding something positive in it. But overall, no, looking back on it, it was awful. I mean, there's no plot to this story. It's just, by this stage, I think Stephen Moffat is so out of ideas. Like, he can barely string a plot together. It's just, scene after scene.
Well, all the plot is next week. All the plot is next week, isn't it?
Well,
this is just A to B to C to D. Look, we're at E. End of episode.
Yeah. I mean, even then, there should still be at least something like in the first part. The whole thing it's just member berries after member berries, pointless cameos from previous stories, and it's so fucking pretentious as well. And on top of that, there's so many bits of it that just, I mean, as you say, that there's no reason for them. There's no, why bother with all that shit with Missy in the plane? Why bother with all the bit with the tank? I mean, that tank bit was just so ridiculous. And really, I've not got much to say about this. Only positive I'll give is that Colony Sarth was quite a cool looking monster.
Don't forget the Sonic sunglasses.
Oh God, I forgot that. I mean,
the Sonic glasses.
So the guy that played Colony Sarth, Jamie Reed Quarrel, I believe his name is. He's a really cool guy. He also played the creature in Heaven Sent, the one that's chasing him. And I remember, I even said to him on Twitter, it must have been fun to make Malcolm Tucker your bitch for 4 billion years. And he liked that tweet and agreed with me. So, I mean, he's a really cool guy, and he gives a really cool, creepy performance.
What's that? Someone in the industry, a member of a talent with a sense of humour.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, he really got into it.
Watch.
When he was at a convention as well, he was like escorting this guy in a Davros costume around, going, it's nice to help the boss get a day out and everything. So I mean, I like the way he really got into it, and I wish Colony Sarth had been in a better story, because he's a really, really cool idea and concept, but he's
I'm talking about acting. Julian Bleach.
Oh, yes, he's good as always. He's excellent as Davros.
He was just immediately right there.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And the one thing I will say about Julian Bleach's portrayal is it's the one portrayal of Davros that makes me feel this is the same character as it was in Genesis.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the only portrayal, but I definitely think he did.
It is so close.
It's perfect.
So well, I mean, that's personally how it makes me feel. I really appreciate Julian Bleach's Davros.
No, I completely agree. I'll say, the saving graces of this story are Julian Bleach is excellent as Davros, and the guy that played Colony Sarth is suitably creepy, and it's a cool idea. But other than that, I think this is a pretty weak first part. There's some decent ideas in the second part, but I'll talk about them when we get to it.
Let's have Golden Age Geek. So, what's your feeling about part 1? Before we'll do part 2 in a minute. I mean, the whole setup, part 1, the changes to the Doctor's character, what the hell was going on? How did this strike you at the time?
Well, I mean, at the time, I was sort of still just excited by anything that just appeared on the screen, but thinking about it, it's been said already, this entire episode is just pointless. It's just the stepping stones to get to the second part, whereas what should happen is the first part should be able to stand alone in some way and be significant. It shouldn't have to rely on the execution in the second part to make it better. And this, you could literally just skip to the second part and there's more interesting stuff going on. This is just pointless in my opinion. And the thing that annoys me the most about the Sonic sunglasses is that they're literally just a pair of just plain all black shades. Like, at least make them interesting. At least put some design to it.
Yes.
Like, I remember when the BBC was selling merch for that, and I'm thinking they're literally just sunglasses, and they're selling them for like £30.
Yeah. Well, you can't knock. Yeah, you can take your ass off to that. It was a brilliant bit of merchandising. $1.99 knockoff old McDonald's glasses. That'll do. Brilliant merchandising. Great way of making some profit.
And Moffat had to do that thing where every time he gets the shades out, he always goes, "Don't look up my browser history." Of course, that's very much a Moffat thing to do.
Yeah. It's what have you got on your internet? You sordid little anorak joke.
You know what it would be. You know what it would be. It'd be just Jenna Coleman photos. That's all it is. He's got a smile on his face when he puts them on.
No Free Hydraman or Ingrid Oliver photos.
Oh, now there's a thing. Oh dear me.
Right, so I think we've got a fairly good handle on part one.
It was awful.
Part two.
Part two.
Yeah. So we are now doing for which is familiar.
Yes.
So look, Skaro. I'm not immune. I'm a sucker. It looked great.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, all those OG Daleks. So I can't say that there weren't things about this story that made my fan heart sing. But the plot wasn't one of them.
No.
So basically, the episode opens explaining that Clara and Missy are not dead.
Of course not.
Didn't actually bother explaining what happens to the TARDIS.
No,
We'll get there later. But Clara and Missy are not dead because the reason that Missy was also not dead when shot with a disintegrator in the graveyard at the end of whatever that Tales episode was called was that Death in Heaven was first. She took the energy of the blast and used it to power her teleporter and then boink, teleported out of the way by a certain rando amount, And she explains how she did this by telling a story about how absolutely fantastic the Doctor is at doing it. So there's this nice little black and white sequence, and at one point it's the first Doctor and the fourth Doctor, and we said, let's just say it was the eyebrows, and so it's Capaldi doing it. And, he's being chased by these androids and how he calculates it all in the blink of an eye, all these billions of calculations to use a sonic screwdriver to teleport himself out of the way. And then Clara says, aha, so he's safe then. And then she says, no, he fell straight into a vat of vampire monkeys or something. It's the Doctor, what do you expect?
Yeah.
So we get this intro, but finishes up with, Clara feeling the need for a stick and Missy telling her to get her own. So after the intro, we find more of the same. Really, Clara and Missy penetrate the sewers by Missy testing the distance by shoving Clara down the gap, and there Missy reveals that the sewer is full of Dalek that can't hold itself together anymore and just turned into goo. So the sewer is actually alive. They set off a security system. A Dalek shows up. Missy uses a White Star diamond to poke holes in its case. The Gloop gets inside, takes out the Dalek. Then they use the empty casing and put Clara inside it. Meanwhile, the Doctor's having a chat with Davros.
Of course he is.
And the Doctor's a bit guilty about the abandoning him on the minefield business, and kind of thinks that maybe if he hadn't done that, he might have turned out a bit better.
Maybe.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a guilt going on, but above the guilt is anger and the demand to know what the hell's going on with Clara. So therefore, the Doctor basically hoodwinks Davros and nicks his chair. and goes off to confront the Daleks and say, "Where's Clara? You better find me Clara. If you can't find me Clara, there's going to be some trouble. By the way, I've got a cup of tea. Don't even think about trying to work out how." No. And from a distance, Missy can hear the Doctor speaking out over the intercom of the Dalek City, as he goes, "Oh, the Doctor without hope. Oh gosh, I wouldn't want to be the Daleks if I was them," sort of thing. Yes. And but all's no avail, because just when the Doctor thinks it's all sorted out, because Davros's chair really does have a banging anti-Dalek ray gun force field. Just when the Doctor thinks it's all worked out, Colony Staff turns out they've been hiding in the bottom. Pshaw, you snaked! And the Doctor doesn't know anything about Clara and Missy knocking about in the sewers because he thinks they're dead, so he finds himself back in Davros's chamber. But this time, Davros is really working with gaslighting, and he convinces the Doctor that all he wants to do is see the sun rise one last time. So the Doctor, being a bit of a vulnerable muppet there, really, if I caught him on a bit of a weak point, decides that he'll juice up Davros with a bit of Time Lord energy. Only to discover that as soon as he starts the energy flow, it turns into a giant suck, and he can't stop it. So, ow. Meanwhile, all this regeneration energy is flowing to all the Daleks, and they're all feeling quite pleased with themselves. The Time Lord, not only is the Time War over, but we've nicked all your Time Lord energy, so who gets to win? Oh, we do. Daleks, we're the best. We're the best. Ooh, kind of like that. Then Missy comes up, goes, "Ooh, Davros, hello." Bang, bang, bang. Shoots Colony Staff. Ooh, bit of a problem. Stops the energy flow, pokes him in the eye, and they leave.
Yes.
Right. Then it's all like, "Where's Clara? Oh, this Dalek killed Clara. I am a Dalek. Oh, you bad Dalek. Get that Dalek, Doctor. Oh, no, that Dalek's Clara, really. Oh, you bad person, Missy. Oh, Missy, don't be here when I turn my back around to deal with you. Oh, she's gone. Come on, Clara, let's go. Missy, oh, Dalek City, going a bit wrong. That regeneration thing turned out to be a bad idea. All the sewer Daleks got regenerated too, and they want revenge. Dalek apocalypse." Missy going, "Better get out of here. Oh, hello, Daleks. I've got a good idea." Don't see her again. And end of episode, really.
Yeah.
Oh, no, so you missed the end. It turns out that the reason this is so stupid. And
yeah, he has to go back to the part where he destroys the mines.
And saves Davros.
And, he must have always done that.
Yeah, because that's what he saves Davros and tells him that.
But I suppose he just has to get the sonic screwdriver back off him so he doesn't remember whose it is. Can't go leaving that incriminating evidence lying around.
He did. No, he did leave it around because Davros still has it. Davros gives
Did he? I forgot all about the details of that. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
No, but also the reason he saves Davros is because Davros, when he saves him, he tells him that pity is important, mercy is important, and it's meant to be Davros programmed that into the Daleks, and that's how the Doctor. So that's how Clara was able to let him know that she was inside there, because she was able to say mercy, because the Doctor put that into the Dalek DNA. Even though in Genesis the whole point is he took it out, apparently he put it back in. So yeah.
Is that before or after all memory of the Doctor got completely wiped from all the Daleks?
Who can keep track at this point?
What was that, Moffat? Yeah,
yeah, that thing, that inconvenience you forgot. Oh dear Lord, what? Mind you, John, as Paplat said, the way you described it, it made it sound even worse than it. He goes, when you describe it, this story, it's even worse than I remembered. So there you go.
It was a certain amount of fun.
Yeah.
I can't help it, right? Put a classic Dalek in front of me, show me a Dalek City. I'm going to struggle not to engage with that, at least on some level. It looked great.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it did look good. It did look
good. The ideas were a mess, but it looked great.
Everything else, it looked fantastic. Unfortunately, it was just the visuals that looked good. Oh no, it was a mess. It was all over the place. not.
Right, anyone got anything in particular they want to add about part 2?
Shall I go first, or will you go first?
Please do.
Well, I've got a bit to add, but not as much as Death in Heaven. Don't worry. But yeah, overall, I think this was pretty shit. I'm sorry. I thought Missy was even more annoying. The way, like, she was too over the top, and you know, and also like the way she kept switching accents. I think they want to steal your motor and all that shit.
Oh.
And it was awful, dreadful performance. I mean, it annoys me the way poor old Eric Roberts gets told, you know, he hammed it up, but a lot of these same fans praise her. Like, seriously?
Hang on a minute. Was it a dreadful performance? Or was it a dreadful direction?
Both.
Because, am I not correct in thinking... I am not correct in thinking. Hetty McDonald did these.
Well, Rachel Talalay it was the same performance really across all of them, and Rachel Talalay did Dark Water, Death in Heaven. So
I'm just wondering if Rachel Talalay directed these as well, but no, she didn't. It was Hetty McDonald did.
No, but I mean, either way, Missy's not the worst thing in it. I really, really disliked the plot. I thought the retcons were stupid. I mean, we've already been over it. It doesn't add up with Genesis, which, like, since this episode is so heavy on member berries, I mean, I agree with you guys. The only enjoyment I could get out of it was seeing the old 60s Dalek city and the old Dalek designs. But when you're so like hepped up on member berries, to get like the basic continuity wrong is really embarrassing. It's like you're clearly, you don't even know what you're doing. You're just throwing like visuals from the old series at the wall without any context or meaning. And it just comes over as hollow. I agree with what Sadako said. It's crap the way that Davros is just back and nobody, like, you know, cares or thinks that's odd. When the last time he was there, he tried to destroy every universe. You'd think his return would be a big deal, but no. Now he's back to wanting Time Lord DNA. Why? He already has secrets to destroy.
It's kind of odd, isn't it? It's like everyone just goes, "Oh yeah, Davros, he lives over there." Oh yeah, I heard Davros was back. Yeah, he's over there somewhere.
I remember I kept thinking the return of Davros after Journey's End, it's going to be this big deal where, oh my god, like the worst villains survive.
There's no like Davros, go get him. You know, I mean that's bizarre, really, isn't it?
Also,
they're just chatting like he's a member of the club.
I know it's ridiculous. Also, I think it kind of messes up the Dalek-Davros relationship, the way the Daleks seem to care for him, they praise him and everything like that. I mean, that's not the type of dynamic they have.
No, it certainly isn't.
No, it's very a character that way. And other things, I hate the way as well that Stephen Moffat completely botched. I mean, this is the Davros and the Master meeting each other. That's a big deal. That's as big as the Daleks and the Cybermen. And no one even commented on it because Missy just doesn't seem like the Master.
The Daleks' relationship with Davros, right from the very beginning, has been, "We're not your travel machines, Grandad." Yeah. You know, I mean, we've never got on.
No.
You know, as soon as the Daleks have the ability to assert the slightest bit of self-determination, they fucked him off as fast as possible.
Yeah, binned him straight away.
I will say,
Ross, you know,
I think there was the germ of a good idea in here. I mean, it would need a lot of rewriting. I think what should have happened is they should have had it the Daleks had captured Davros, who was dying, and because they want like his knowledge of the Time War, then they would capture the Doctor and force him to try and rescue
more like that.
Davros, and Davros and the Doctor would then have to work together.
Some kind of rapprochement between them both as prisoners in the same shit. That would have been much better.
And you could have explored. So I think it was a good idea to do a story that explores like Dalek, you know, the Dalek city and their home planet, and you could have had like the Doctor and some other Dalek slaves having to work together to make their way through it and seen all the different Daleks and, you know, the Lake of Mutations and creatures like Colony Sarth that they create.
But this is the big problem, isn't it? It has to be all about Clara.
Yes.
Oh God, I know.
It's like the Doctor is obsessed and hasn't got a single other thought in his brain for most of the episode. But Clara.
I can also say there's a lot of really annoying, pretentious Moffat crap where characters big up the Doctor into being this god. Like, oh, hear that? That's the sound of the Doctor without hope. He'll burn this entire city down. It's like, oh, fuck off. Shit.
Really?
I know.
Oh, no.
Also, sir, one last thing to say about this before I go is that this is the point, I think, where it really lost me. I mean, obviously, I hated what they did in Series 8. But at this stage, I realised Doctor Who had now become a parody of itself. Literally, it was Curse of Fatal Death. We have the Master with Dalek bumps in the sewers, and we have, the Daleks being beaten by literal shit. And on top of that, the way the Doctor wins, it's just like Curse of Fatal Death. Remember? I mean, it's exactly like that. He goes back and he bribes the architect. It's the same. Stephen Moffat reused all the same shit that he did in that parody in the actual show itself. By this stage, it was all it was a parody of itself at this stage. It's a real shame.
Yeah, it was.
I have to agree. I mean, I just it's all felt off at the time.
Yeah,
it didn't land right.
No.
Yeah, really and I think the parody of a parody is definitely pretty close to nailing it. But still, look, I've got one arm of a Which Is Familiar. You've got the other. Golden Age Geek, free hit. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, punch it.
Straight in the guts.
Well, I don't really
love
know
Doctor Who.
But with the Which Is Familiar, I don't really. Again, it's good ideas on the surface, poorly executed. The idea that the Doctor would allow himself to be tricked to allow this big risk to happen, but then no, it's a switcheroo. Ooh. Again, it's Moffat doing what he always does, where Moffat creates most convoluted stuff that make no sense, so then he can say to the audience, "Haha, tricked you, didn't I?" When it's you're just there going, "What?" Like,
what?
It's not even clever. It's not even clever. It doesn't make sense.
Oh, this is going to be a fun series. This is.
That's Curse of Fatal Death too, by the way. Like, with
it is.
Yeah,
it's just Moffat 101.
Yeah, absolutely.
We really should review Curse of Fatal Death and give it a proper score so we could benchmark it against all other Moffat scripts.
Would they really?
Yeah.
Oh, dear me. I'll have to do a special just on the Curse of the Fatal.
Well, it is. It's everything he did in that is a joke. It would be like if the next James Bond movie was just Austin Powers. Like Blofeld started doing that with his pinky. Blofeld had a son that he went to, what was it, like a group therapy with. That's what it's like. Sorry, carry on, Golden Age Geek.
No, that's about it, really. That's all I got to say.
He's done. He's finished.
I think we scores.
Oh, dear.
Shall I lead us off, then? Part 1, Part 2. Part 1, C.
Wow,
that's good. That's high.
Because there was stuff that I found it watchable. It didn't bore me. And I won't be able to say that about some of the episodes following up we'll get to tonight.
Yeah, indeed.
Part 2, well, I get D. I can't D plus it. It's not good enough. It's a D.
Right, fair enough.
That's where I think that's where I'm coming out of it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Part 1 and Part 2 just a D. And I think I'm being quite generous there, but a D for both. A D for both. So there you go. How about you, Boranshaw?
I'm going to give an E for both. It's not quite the dregs of Death in Heaven, and I like at least looking at all the different Daleks and the 60s visuals, but yeah, as a story, it's a total mess.
It's a mess.
I just find it so hard to go down to an E when you've got Capaldi's performance, and he's just blistering in every damn scene. I mean, he is brilliant.
I don't know if he was so good in this one. I mean, he's a good actor.
But,
he's
but
normally
how
good.
bad would it be if it was Whittaker doing exactly the same?
Yeah, obviously. But I think
so it's not an E on the performance. So
He does
That's
it. He
why I
overdoes it.
struggle with it.
Like when he goes like, "Vampire enough, your creations." He kind of overdoes it a bit in this one, trying to be too.
That's why it's not an A on the performance, But
yeah,
he still made it fun. It's the problem we've got with all these Capaldi stories. It's just Capaldi as an actor. I just don't think we ever had a Doctor who was more adrift from his scripts.
Oh, I agree with that.
Even Davison, where he seemed to be drifting through his own stories. It's bizarre, really. But anyway, we've scored the damn thing.
No, we haven't.
We haven't got Golden Age Geeks.
We haven't got Golden Age Geeks. So
EDC, what's it going to be?
Both of them, I'll just give it a D.
There you go.
Right, D. It's a whole dunce cap of them. If the whole thing was a dunce cap, that's what's.
To be honest, it's the worst Dalek story pre-Jodie.
It's a shame because, as you said, with the the visuals of Scarrow and the old Daleks, it could have been.
Oh yeah,
amazing. It could have been brilliant. Should have been. Unfortunately, we get the appearance, but not the content. Exactly.
Such a shame because Peter Capaldi loved the Daleks. They were his favourite monsters growing up.
Exactly.
And he only got 2 Dalek stories, one of which was crap, and other than that, like they're reduced to cameos where they're undermined in his era, like when the one's taken over in Gallifrey and the one gets killed by the flood. So his era is really a low point for the Daleks, which is a shame considering how much he loved them.
Absolute shame. Right then, shall we move on to the next one? Well, the next.
We've just brought it up quite well there, because we need to keep focused and step up our game, or our reviews might end up under the lake.
Oh, there you go. He worked that one in well again.
I struggled, but I managed it somehow.
Yeah. Somehow. Oh, another base under the siege job, isn't it? Really, this one.
Which is always a good bet, and a lot of people have a great opinion of this one.
I do,
and speak very highly of Toby Whitehouse as talent. Mm-hmm. So let's see what we make of it when we chew it all over. So we start off about 100 years in the future.
Yeah, about that.
And the Doctor and Clara arrive at this underwater base. There is a military-type base, and they discover that they've been studying an alien craft with some kind of weird glyphs scratched on its inside back wall. Mm-hmm. And that this base is situated under this underneath this lake, where there used to be a Scottish town.
Yeah.
So when these military guys find out that there's this weird cliff, the commander who looked at it, he dies. Yeah. And then when you die, your ghost appears.
Mm-hmm.
So very quickly, the Doctor becomes known to the others, and there's the usual "Who the heck are you? Well, you better trust me. I'm the only one who knows how to do anything around here" kind of speech. Yep. And they set about trying to capture a ghost to try to understand them. And after having a run around and trapping a ghost in a kind of Faraday cage, we then discover the ghost is repeating what appears to be a set of coordinates.
Yeah.
And when they go to the coordinates, they find there's a church with an unopenable chamber inside it. And the Doctor concludes that that's where the ghosts are being controlled and sent from.
Yeah.
By a signal. So the Doctor decides that he's got to go back in time to find out the true meaning of the signal. And that means he needs to go back to before everything got flooded, the day that the alien spacecraft landed.
Yeah.
So Clara is bound up with the people from the base, which is a Commander Cass and another person called Lunn, and they're separated from 2 others, O'Donnell and Bennett. And O'Donnell and Bennett go with the Doctor and the TARDIS. And just as they leave, Clara looks out across the lake through this porthole window, and she sees a new ghost out on the lake horrific horror of horror. It's the Doctor. So, really trying to go for the scare factor, the claustrophobia factor. Good solid base under siege stuff, and a genuinely baffling set of mysteries to kind of unravel. So, reasonably strong part one? Question mark. What do you guys think?
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I liked the cliffhanger at the end with the Doctor. That was brilliant because that did genuinely think, oh God, can't wait to see how that happened. And I always do, nearly always enjoy the base under siege stories because they're always fascinating. And it's good the way that the two sections, Clara and her two soldiers were separated from the Doctor and his two soldiers. That separation, I thought, worked really, really well. Enjoyable, and that I thought it was. I quite enjoyed it. It set up the second part quite well. So, yeah, I thought it was. I enjoyed this one much better than the last two we had to suffer through. But yeah, this was a little bit more promising at the start. So that's my sort of general overview. So, what do you think, Burren Jaw?
Well, yeah, I agree with all that. I thought this one was really well done. I'm a big fan of Toby Whitehouse overall. Not so much for his Doctor Who stories. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Being Human, another show he did, which I thought was really good. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's ever written a bad Doctor Who story, and this is probably his best one. And the ghosts looked really, really scary. I love the way they didn't have the eyes, and that was really like horrifying and quite visceral, almost like. And I thought they built it up really well. Peter Capaldi was really, really good in this one. This was much better.
He was on fire.
It played to his strengths. That's when the first Dalek story, I think, tried to make him a technical, not just in the tank bit, but by having him be all like hyper emotional, like please. Whereas in this one, he gets to play it more as the kind of professor, which was what he really wanted. He wanted to be more of a Hartnell Pertwee type, and he does that brilliantly. And it's one of the best cliffhangers when you see the ghost of the Doctor. I mean, even though it's not going to happen, you're intrigued to think, how's he going to get out of this? So
he doesn't have a sort of bouncing hyperactive Missy to kind of try to keep in check on screen in this, does he? I mean,
no. Clara's better in this one. I mean, she's fairly nondescript, but that's still better than having her take over the whole story.
Splitting them up is an idea which has had some appreciation in the comments.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, I also want to say I really, really like the girl who plays the fangirl. I'm not quite like fangirl characters, I guess, like her and Osgood. But again, I really like her. Morven Christie, her name was, and I remember at the time even singling her out, going on about how she's really, really good, she's really cute, and since then she's gone on to become a big star. So I feel quite proud at that.
Yeah, it was pretty good, enjoyable. So what do you think, Golden Age Geek?
Well, it's a weird one for me because I'm a very big fan of the second half, but not such a big fan of the first. And I think, again, for me, it just suffers from too much build-up, not a lot happening until the final 10 minutes or so.
Holds too much back too long.
Yeah, but I do like the general premise. And one thing I will say about this is that this episode did something well that a lot of modern writers should take on board, is that when you have the deaf character, a lot of times now, if you look at a film like Eternals, and the plot is that these godlike creatures have created agents to carry out their work, and then you have a disabled character, it doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of the plot. But with this episode, they actually execute her disability and the fact that she's deaf, and they actually utilize it to go around the plot of the noises that these creatures make. So again, that's how you do that very well.
Yes, absolutely agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because it's an example where a disability impacts the story.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Not just box ticking.
Exactly. Yes, how it should be done. Yeah, very, very effective.
Sorry. Well, for my part with part one, I mean, it's all quite functional and it rolls along quite nicely. I admit I was a little bit confused about exactly what was supposed to be going on. Maybe it could have been done with being a little bit slower for me, but that must be because I'm getting old or something. But you know, yeah, part one was fine by me. I thought it was an effective piece of Doctor Who. And I was certainly curious, left me curious at the end of it to find out what the heck was going on and how the Doctor was out on the lake. You know,
Yes.
so definitely a very effective cliffhanger. And in general, one thing I appreciate about the series 9 is the bigger stories.
Yes, I do like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
This would not have worked as a one-parter. This needed, because as we're saying, contrast to Golden Age Geek, I think unlike the Dalek one, the first part does have value, because when you watch it back, it's not just build-up. There's like creepy scenes. There's an atmosphere that scares you without knowing what's going to happen. So I think this one benefits hugely from being a two-parter.
Yes,
well,
indeed.
Moving into part 2, before the flood, the Doctor, Bennett and O'Donnell land in 1980. And don't be a bit mocked up like some Russian town, like they're doing some sort of military exercises there. I'm trying to remember there was some sort of Cold War aspect to it, wasn't it? And they find the alien Undertaker Prentice is not yet a ghost; he's still alive. Yeah. And the writing's not been scratched into the wall of the ship yet. But Prentice has landed on Earth to bury his former enslaver, who he calls the Fisher King. Yeah. So it's at the start. It's not until the start of part 2 we really find out whose spaceship this is. So the Doctor contacts Clara back in 2119, and she tells him that his ghost is outside mouthing their names. And the ghosts release the other ghosts from the Faraday cage, so now all the ghosts are knocking about this base in the future. Meanwhile, back in 1980, the Fisher King, he wakes up. Oops, not as dead as you thought, eh?
No.
Then he kills Prentice and writes the glyph on the wall. And then O'Donnell is killed, which confirms Clara's suspicion the Doctor's ghost is telling her the order in which people will die. The Doctor then confronts the Fisher King back in 1980, who boasts to the Doctor that the glyphs are going to power, the ghosts are going to power a glyph and send a signal that will draw his armada. But the Doctor makes him angry, which, you know, he's very good at that, and draws him away from this sarcophagus thing, and then destroys the wall of the dam, causing the town to flood.
Yep.
So that then gets rid of the Fisher King. Meanwhile, back in 2019, this stasis chamber that the Fisher King was supposed to survive in opens, and guess what? The Doctor's inside.
Yay!
What? How? Oh, his ghost is a hologram the Doctor programmed and then made appear to fuck with people's heads, rather than tell them things in a very clear, obvious, helpful way. But that's all right, because it was all about the Doctor making sure he had a lovely example of a bootstrap paradox to talk about. So, yeah, whatever, it's all over now.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes.
Sorry, did I lose the coherency of the plot at the end there?
Well, yeah.
Okay, now, did I hear? I've heard Golden Age Geek tell me, not the Golden Age Geek, sorry, I take that back. I heard Bowinger tell me this is Toby Whitehouse's best Doctor Who script and a really, really good story. So I'd like to hear his view on part 2.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, carry on. We can hear you.
Okay, good. I thought I'd gone there. Okay, well, overall, it's not perfect, to be fair. Like, I agree with Sadako. I think O'Donnell's death is a bit contrived and also was a waste of Morven Christie, who, again, has gone on to become a big star. and who, you know, really could have been quite a fun companion for him in that episode. So yeah, I didn't like that. And also, I think that the start where he's explaining the bootstrap paradox is a bit too on the nose. I mean, Peter Capaldi makes the most of it. He's very good at being a one-man show, but actually having the Doctor like explain it to the audience, that's a bit, you know, too much. But overall, no, I thought it was quite a good story, because I mean, the whole point was the reason the Doctor set everything in motion was so that he would let his future self know to go back and stop the, you know, the monster from escaping back in the 80s. So it was a bit contrived, but it made sense to me, at least. I thought the Fisher King was quite a cool looking monster. It reminded me of the Predator, actually. And Peter Serafinowicz, who did its voice, was really good. You know, he gave it a lot of menace. And there were some really quite creepy scenes. I remember where you see the ghost chasing the deaf girl with the axe trailing behind. I thought that was quite a creative and interesting moment of horror. So yeah, and also I quite like the way the Doctor, this one, again, it felt more like they were playing to Peter Capaldi's strengths by not only making his Doctor a bit more professorial and older, but also by having him be a little bit
Capaldi's Doctor better. Yes, it did. I mean, I think this story felt more like it fitted the Doctor from Series 8.
Yes, I'd agree with that. Yeah,
definitely.
Which I suppose at this point in time, well, all these things, our conception of the Doctor's character, it wasn't the distorted thing that we'd been served up a week before.
No, definitely not. This is a proper Peter Capaldi story. Should have had more ones like this, atmospheric, creepy stories that allowed the Doctor to be a bit equivocal. This and Into the Dalek are great examples of how the Peter Capaldi era should have gone. After Matt Smith, we should have had a Doctor who you weren't sure if you were safe with, going into scarier situations to really frighten people. But sadly, this is one of the few examples of that. So that's another reason I think this one stands out as particularly good.
Fair enough.
Golden Age Geek, how do you feel about part 2?
Well, I think what draws me to part 2 so much is I love time travel stories where they have the characters go back on themselves, so we see them go through the day and then they go back again. I like the idea of avoiding your previous self.
Yeah,
that I like those type of stories. But again, I think the Fisher King is actually a very underrated villain. I love the fact that when we first see him, of course, the Doctor's got his supposed death hanging over him, so he goes in, and I think I'm echoing through someone's.
It's
not sure. Don't think it can be me. Anyone else got an echo?
No. Try now. I can hear a bit of a feedback, but nothing major. No.
Okay.
Oh, I heard it clear as day. Then
is it me?
Just keep going.
Just keep going, and we'll figure it out.
I mean, I'm on headphones here. I don't know if you guys are, but it can't be coming through my speakers.
No, I'm on headphones as well. So just carry on, Golden Age. We'll see if we can sort it out.
The scenes between the Doctor and the Fisher King, I think, are very well done. You have this character that isn't kind of an intelligent character, but he has brute strength and he comes out the dark. And I love the fact that the Doctor seems genuinely scared by him. There's very few monsters where the Doctor's actually scared. But the Fisher King is very interesting because he seems to have knowledge of the Time Lords and the history of the Doctor, which is very intriguing. So when he's pushed him up against the wall and he's talking about the evolution of the Time Lords, it intrigues me so much because there's so much history there that you can go off from the episode and think about, what that could mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting one in itself, because we can presume that to even become aware of the Time Lords, you've got to be part of a species which has reached a certain level of development. Yeah. Because if you're not at a serious risk of potentially developing time travel, the Time Lords would never have allowed you to know anything about them.
So
you'd have to reach a certain level before you even got to know the Time Lords existed.
Yep.
So by revealing that he knows this about the Time Lords, what the Fisher King is really saying is, "Watch out, Doctor! My species has got technology."
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh dear, mate.
Well, anything else you want to say about part 2, Golden Edgy?
No, not in particular. I do think it's a bit of a cop out at the end. Again, it's the Doctor was behind it all along. He actually programmed all of this, and again, just it's just the writers trying to trick you and trying to show how smart they are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was, for me, it was all right. It was. I thought the ending. At the end,
the Time Prophet has made a point here. He says, "Surely you only have to talk to the Doctor. He tells people everything." Lol. Yeah, I'm the Doctor. Right, yeah, a Time Lord. Yeah, what constellation do you say? Casturbarus. I'll just write that down. Yeah.
He does have to give it away, doesn't he?
He doesn't think of a point,
He has got a point.
If you want to nuke us, you can find us here.
So true.
It is true. It's absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, he literally almost gives the postcode away.
Yeah.
Just get this in your sat nav. I live here.
All right. Look, my view on part 2. Like, I'm sorry, boys. I'm going to have to be somewhat contrary here. I can't help feeling that this story is considerably overrated. Firstly, the bootstrap paradox thing, it doesn't delight me. It makes my teeth grind.
Right, fair enough.
Because yes, it's a classic time travel paradox, but making the plot into an example of it's just a bit too damn contrived.
Fair enough.
And like I indicated earlier when I was going through the overview of the plot, for the resolution, for the reason that the Doctor's a ghost out on the lake, that the Doctor's done a hologram to fuck with people's heads, I can't get behind that at all.
Fair enough.
So to make the bootstrap paradox work, the Doctor has to deliberately keep some things. Well, it has to basically make something look like something it's not.
Yeah.
For no good reason I can really understand that did anything meaningful about stopping the Fisher King. That was all apparently trying to communicate something to Clara, not that knowing which water people died didn't help in any way whatsoever anyway. So it was useless information.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like part 1. I like the build up of part 1, but I don't always get on with these over contrived time travel stories. I think Burringer's trying to speak, but we're not really hearing anything coming over. I see little stutters coming.
Yeah, I do see little flicks from his thing. But
so if you put in your hair like say, John, it was awesome. We just
I'm not trying to speak. No, it's not. I wasn't.
There's a bit of sound pollution in
I
the
wasn't
background
trying to
or something.
So can you hear me now?
I'll keep going. No, I'll keep going. Just checking you weren't. Being you're not, I'll keep going a moment. Yeah. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And then with regard to the Fisher King, hang on. What was his plan? Why?
Yeah.
Why? Hang on. I'll try it again. Why? He's a menacing figure. I mean, I thought, as far as the character design went, maybe a little bit goofy, but kind of worked. It's supposed to be a sort of death surrogate. I kind of got that, but really, I just found him overblown, ranty, and actually not intimidating. So it just didn't work for me. I don't disagree that this is a good example of Peter Capaldi's story. I definitely agree it's a good use of his character, but that didn't happen that often. So it gets plus points on that, but I'm not actually behind the story that well.
Yeah.
I'm thinking part 1 B, part 2 C+.
Fair enough. I will go part 1 B+, because I did quite enjoy the build up. Part 2, B-. It did drop. I didn't like the ending was a bit too contrived, so I thought of.
Looks like Berenger's dropped out for a moment.
He sent me it sent it on a private chat that he's having connection problems. So it's probably where the echo was coming from as well.
Right, I would think so. He'll be back. We'll get him back as soon as we can.
Sorted. Yeah, no worries.
Golden Age Geek. So, are you going to strongly disagree with my view of the episode?
Well, yeah, my thoughts are kind of a bit of an opposite. So I would rate Under the Lake a C-, and then Before the Flood I'd put B+.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty good scores.
Yeah, again, there's the story working slightly different ways. Absolutely.
Again, there's that point where when we go through the issues in terms of the story for Before the Flood, it does make me think and go back on my thoughts on it, but it still just excites me a lot of the scenes within the second part. So again, there are those stories where that some things don't make sense, but you just can't help to love it because of that, fun element of it.
Yeah. Well, it's Doctor Who. Of course we love it. I mean, even if we call it a load of and F it into the ground, we still love it.
And Berenger's back in time to give his score.
So, what did you come out with again, Golden Age?
Sorry about that, guys. That was a fucking nightmare.
It's all right. We're okay. You're back.
Welcome back. So we're just doing final scores for Under the Lake and Before the Flood. What do you want to go for?
Oh,
it's a bit of a day.
Can you hear me? Because this has been a bloody nightmare the last few minutes.
Yes, we can hear you.
All the time.
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Carry on. Give us your scores.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. That was awful.
Don't worry.
It was weird because it was making noises when I wasn't even speaking. When you weren't even speaking, I wasn't trying to talk when you were giving your review of it. It just very okay. It seems to be settled now.
Yeah, you seem okay.
So my scores for it, I guess, would be.
Yeah.
Go on then.
God, I kicked this laptop. But my scores for it would probably be, I'd say this is a bit generous, but an A, because it was the first Doctor Who story that I enjoyed in a long while. Like when you think of the ones before this, you had the shit down.
It broke a bad streak. It gets
really bad
automatically. Yeah.
So
there was before the shit Dalek and worst Cyberman story you had in the Forest of the Night. Remember that? So this broke that streak.
And what about your score for?
So A for me.
A
as well. I'll give it. That's what I'm saying. I'd give it an A overall because it was a good story.
Fair enough.
There you go. This is why we have a broad variety on the panel.
Yes. Yes.
I couldn't get anywhere near.
So what did you guys think of it?
I gave it a C and a D, I think.
Yeah, you did.
I wasn't very happy with part 2 at all. I'm sorry you missed my interpretation with the communication problems. You can catch it on the replay. We'll force ahead.
I'll do that.
We've pretty much done it. Because, it's all very well thinking about these floods and lakes and everything, but, what you should really think about is the girl who died.
Oh, there it is. There he is.
What sort of heartless beasts would we be? Especially since it's the girl that we pinched, Doctor Who pinched out of Game of Thrones, which was a bit of a coup.
Bit of a coup, indeed.
So what we're going to make of these 2 episodes next. I mean, they kind of are a 2-parter, but they're not because this time they're separate stories. Although they have separate writers as well. So the first one is set sometime in the Viking era. It's not exactly clear when, 800 AD-ish, sometime in the Dark Ages. The Doctor and Clara are basically mucking about, really. They've just sort of landed the TARDIS and they're having a mooch around. And of course, what happens? But they get captured by Vikings.
Yay!
Right. Okay. So then, after being captured by Vikings, they're dragged across the countryside for a couple of days, and turn up at the village, looking a little bit bedraggled. But just when they were sort of getting a handle on how they were going to escape or whatever, something a bit weird happens that they weren't expecting, which is that there's a face appears in the clouds and says, "We're the Maya, and we're going to, basically take anything we want from you, and there's nothing you're going to do about it."
Yeah, you can't stop us.
And the Doctor and Clara don't like that very much. They don't think that's right. So they decide to begin training these villagers for battle. After a woman from the village called Ashilda declares war on the Maya. I can't remember where all the Vikings are. Off busy as war bands looting, I suppose.
I guess so.
So we've only got the sort of the lesser end of the villagers to sort of try and train up. And the next day, as they were expected to, the Maya invade. But the Doctor has organised to steal a Maya helmet,
Yes.
which he then uses to make a sort of wooden dragon look like a real monster and scare the hell out of the Maya. And then embarrass them so much that they've been Jeremy Beadle pranked by a bunch of ignorant primitives that nobody else will ever take them seriously. So they leave planet Earth in a huff.
Yes.
However, Ashilda putting her brain wattage through this helmet wasn't very good for her, and oops, she dies.
Yeah, kind of fatal. Fatal.
Well, this is a real shame. That's a real bummer to the episode. Nice, the guest star comes a nice part like that, ends up just getting slaughtered. Oh, I bet look next week. Oh no, it's not the end.
No,
because the Doctor then goes, hang on, my face reminds me that I could break the rules anytime I like, and oh, look, there's a Maya medical ship. Oh, look, she's not dead. I'm brilliant. That's it, Clara. Let's go. There we go. Not realising that there was an unexpected side effect.
No, just a little one.
Immortality. Tune in next week. Right then. Who liked this mucking about with Vikings?
How about you, Golden Age Geek? Let's fire off with you first.
This one I've gone back and forth on many times, and I've rewatched it a lot, and I've gone from hating it to loving it, thinking it's okay in some ways. I would say, again, the main thing that bothers me about this one, and it's the same thing that irritates me about a lot of New Who stories, is the way that they ended the climax of the episode, to have this very serious battle where everything's dark, you have babies crying, they're suggesting that these babies are going to get hacked to pieces, to then just have a bloody funny like dragon thing just go and just that just comes off really bad in my opinion.
Fair enough. That's fair enough.
I do like the way that Moffat weaved in the fires of Pompeii. Reference there. And as I said before, Moffat always seems like someone who knows what the fans are thinking and what they're theorizing. So I feel like he purposefully puts in stuff like that as sort of like a wink or a nod to the fans. But yeah, I think the setup, once again, very good. The payoff, not so good.
No. You see, it's a little bit of foreknowledge goes a long way here. Because, of course, the arc for Series 9 is the hybrid. But I think the problem is it's never extremely clear on exactly who or what the hybrid is.
Yeah.
And because that plotline resolves with ambiguity, in retrospect, it's pretty ambiguous what the point of Ashilda is.
Yeah. Yes.
So this is the start of the arc through the season for that character. She's going to turn up in 2, 3, 4, three other episodes.
Three.
Four.
Yeah,
four.
Yeah,
Four.
Yeah. Four.
So there's quite a bit that we've got a bit of journey we're going to take with the Shield, and this is the setup. And the setup is interesting, and I like the ending with the starting off with a sort of optimistic face, but slowly gets harder and harder as the weight of the years starts to tell on her more and more, and that's kind of chilling.
Yeah.
And I like the way that sort of set up. Don't expect next week to be happy slappy. There's going to be issues.
Big issues.
There's going to be consequences. I like issues. I like consequences. But the Doctor's excuse for doing it was just because the script says so.
Very much.
There was nothing else in that situation that would have made the Doctor any more mawkish or regretting that people lose their lives fighting for their freedom like he's seen them do 10,000 times before.
Yeah.
There was nothing in how the Doctor engaged with Ashildr that suggested that she was different to any of the other many, many, many thousands of people he's met. And how many of them have died.
Yeah, exactly.
Muggins second on the right, who copped a blast back in the Sunmakers. What about him?
Yeah, well, why not him? Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, why not him?
Why
not him? And then to create immortality as a cock-up. Kind of suggests that if you could actually create immortality by mistake like that, the universe would be immortal by now many, many, many times over.
Yeah, exactly.
The excuse for a medical chip from one species could make you live forever. It's I think the Maya medical chips would be a bit better known of if they had that consequence.
Well, yeah, exactly. They'd be very in demand.
So there's a lot of woolliness around the edges, and it doesn't do to question it. And it's not good when it doesn't do to question Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So I've struggled. I mean, I kind of get what Golden Age Geek says. You can look at this story one way, it's really quite good. You can look at it another way, it's quite pants. I think the truth is it's all kind of just way too average. And also, it was one of the first stories to have this weird stuff being said by Clara about men.
Yes.
When she's up in the Maya spaceship. What does she say again?
Oh.
I can't. Is it something about the stink of testosterone or something? Isn't
something like that. Something along those lines. The smell of testosterone.
How do you stand it? Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So just put a bum.
The universe
just for the heck of it.
Full of testosterone. Trust me, it's unbearable.
That's it.
Yes, that's where that came from. I knew there was a testosterone line in here.
Yes, there definitely was. That was the line.
So it didn't really feel like it could achieve a lift off above average.
Yes,
as an episode.
Yeah, it was average. It was strange. Nah, it was okay. It was enjoyable.
I mean, has everybody else on things to share about this? So, are we missing major stuff to say?
I don't. Well, I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered it. It was okay. So we'll do this one on its own right. Yeah, because they are totally separate. Sorry, can we say again?
Well, when I was just saying, I think this one was okay.
Yeah.
Do you not hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, you cut out a little bit on the end.
You can hear me now,
sentences, but that's all right. We got you. But yeah, we all agree. It's
fucking I'm sorry, guys. I might have to.
No, you're okay, mate. Just keep going.
You're fine.
I was just. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. Keep going.
Sorry, I might have to jump ship because this fucking connection tonight has just been a joke. I'm really sorry. It's annoys me so much. But yeah. Sorry about this bloody connection. Right, okay. Okay, well let me know when you can. Just right, but as I was saying, yeah, I think this one was okay.
Give us a score for the girl who died. Give us a score.
Yeah, give us a score.
Oh, are we going to score? I've not seen
it. Unless you've got commentary to add. Yeah,
carry on.
Oh, well, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really have much to say about it. I just, I kind of agree with you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, okay. It was. I'd give this one a C. It's not terrible, but not a classic.
I agree with you. It's very firmly in the middle of the C territory.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. C all the way for me as well. How about you, Golden Age Geek?
Yeah, I was going to say C as well.
Yeah, in fact, even in the chat, everybody's coming with a C.
C!
Universal C.
A universally average episode.
Universally average.
Definition of a middle of the road story, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Perfectly smack bang in the middle.
To be fair, that's a step up from In the Forest of the Night.
Oh, it's certainly a step up from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's a swerve and a leap into the sky from In the Forest of the Night. But,
massively.
It's an effortless bound, but it's still average. But will we say the same about the girl who lived?
Nah. Indeed. Will we think the same?
Well, I watched this 2 days ago.
Oh, fresh in your mind then.
Yes, I have done some homework, and I mean it's got a weave of comedy in it, which works. Certainly makes me tickle a bit, but there's other problems. Let's talk about the plot line. So the Doctor is all on his own. He's got rid of Clara for a bit. Oh.
Yes.
Whew, that's nice. Bit of a breather.
Too much estrogen.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. TARDIS was beginning to stench a bit. Yes, too much estrogen. Yes.
Too much estrogen in the TARDIS.
So he's just, entertaining himself, doing what he does, track down an alien artifact, which leads him to the year 1651 in jolly old England.
Oh, yes.
But he turns up and in time to interrupt a highway robbery. And a highwayman calling himself the Nightmare in a suitably appropriate voice is attempting to hold up a carriage. But the Doctor's trying to hold up the same carriage because the Doctor's after his alien artifact. And they kind of got messed up with each other. And while they're arguing with each other, the carriage sods off. And then they go, oh, great, now neither of us have got what we want. I hope you're happy now. Doctor pulls down the mask. Oh, it's not even a man. It's Maisie in disguise.
Yay!
Hello, says Ashildr. Says the Doctor. How nice to see you again, Ashildr. I don't even recognise that name. I'm called Me.
Oh God.
Yes, I know. Oh dear God.
I feel like that's
because
the
it turns out
to
that the consequence of Me's immortality is that she has only got a mortal human mind, and too much living. The data sort of drops out the bottom end.
But the thing I don't understand
she's forgotten far much than she ever knew.
It's like Homer Simpson. Every time I learn something new, it pushes the old stuff out of my brain.
Go on, Golden Age Geek. You're going to say something.
But the whole science behind that doesn't really make much sense, because if you think about it, like a mind is like a database and it's all the information, right? Of course, it doesn't necessarily get rid of the existing information. It just writes over it with new stuff. So it's not a simple thing where she would just one day forget her name is Ashildr, because you don't just forget that. She would have gradually lost memory after memory after memory. But of course, she already knows that her name's Ashildr. So I don't really think that there'll be any situation where she would actually forget her name because, as I say, she didn't just day
purely on practicalities. She's not living in 1651,
Nope.
calling herself me.
Hello.
Ooh.
Hello.
Hang on. Have we lost a Gobby?
Hello.
Oh.
Hello.
I can hear Gobby. Gobby obviously can't hear me.
No, I can hear you now. I can hear you.
You can hear me now. We've got Bowen Jaw. Have we got Golden Age Geek? This is a night for quirky stuff. Right.
Oh, yeah, this has been
but okay.
Oh, dear me.
Hello. No, not really. I'm only taking a piss. Not really. But... Hang on a moment.
Oh, yeah, you are.
Just give me a sec, guys.
What the hell's happened? What the? It's just completely said in chaos.
the thing that makes me laugh. The thing that makes me laugh is we've got all these connection issues going on, and then every 2 minutes, Bowen Jaw just says, "Can anyone hear me?"
It's got what is going wrong tonight. It's just gone mental. And then we're all going, hello, anyone there? Hello. Oh, Matthew Pounder's got the answer.
Is the crappiness of season 9 extending to our connection? Is that what's happening?
Matthew says knock once for yes, twice for no. Oh, what a mess.
Oh, we're having fun. Now, where the heck was I? We were trying to discuss this episode, and I was saying that she must be using she's not calling herself me if she owns property. So she's clearly got a name that she uses, but at least for some time she's been known as to maintain her double life, So it's kind of ridiculous. And I mean, okay, she might not call herself a Shilda, maybe she'd call herself Annie or something, but why would you change that name, your name that much, unless you had some reason you wanted to get away from your roots,
Oh, I don't know. It just
doesn't make a huge amount of sense.
No sense whatsoever.
Yes. And so then the plot gets a little bit. Oh, so look, Golden Age Geek was giving us his input, wasn't he? Where do we get? I got completely lost on it. I'll just forge ahead for a moment and try and make this make some sense. So he met me, right? And me is basically wouldn't mind a way out, and kind of implies to the Doctor that she's bored shitless and wouldn't mind getting out into time and space. So he kind of tries to barter a deal with him, whereas if she helps him get this artifact he's trying to find, take me with you, Doctor. The Doctor's not quite buying into this, but they go on a little robbery spree together, and they steal the artifact, and then me reveals that she's not quite been as she makes out, because there's an alien called Leandro, who's a lion. And I do like space lions on the whole, so I would have liked to have seen more of this species. But he's been stranded on Earth, and he wants the artifact to open a portal to leave. And in return for me helping to trick the Doctor to get the artifact back, Leandro is going to let her come with him to travel the galaxy. So I don't even need you, Grey Boy. Right? However, there's a snag, which is the portal requires a blood sacrifice. I don't know why anyone would make dimensional technology that requires you to kill someone and throw their blood all over it in order to work. Yeah. But apparently, this one does. So there's another sort of a thing. And then there's this really annoying twat of an outlaw called Sam Swift that me is kind of in competition with, but then has this stupid crush on. And they work together to stop Leandro, but in the course of doing that, Sam Swift is killed. And funny, there's another one of these medical chip things. Hey. So let's make that idiot immortal as well, and there they go, So dear, oh dear, what a mess of an episode. Well, over to you guys. Who wants to give their view on it first? What about Golden Age Geek this time?
Well, I do prefer this part definitely to the first one. Again, I take issue with the whole me thing. It sounds like the start of this neutrality bullshit, but
yes.
Anyway, you know, because it's me. Like Shilda very much sounds like, you know, a name that's applied to her, whereas Meek is like, oh well, I can be anything I want, all this and that. But anyway, the thing that I do like surrounding her character though is when the Doctor goes through her diaries and is reading all through what's happened. So she's I don't know if she's had those children, but I think she's looked after children and she's had to watch them die through plagues and disease. So, you know, most of the time you'd have a glorified sort of sense of immortality where, you know, as humans, we think it's all fun, this and that, but she has to watch everyone else just wither away and die while she's just not affected by anything. So that was something that I did like. The robbery scene I did think was a nice bit of fun. And I do like the settings that they do have for this episode and the production, how it was all created. Again, the main creature, was it a tiger? That thing, was it a tiger or a lion?
It was a lion. I'm going for space lion.
Lion.
Yeah, lion.
Yeah, so again, there was a cool concept there, maybe a bit wasted. But I like the premise overall. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. So you awesome. How about you, Boranger?
Okay, here's hoping you guys can hear me because it's showing now.
Go.
Stop.
Okay, you want to walk, guys? I'm sorry. I think I'm gonna have to call.
Well, we can hear you, so you can tell us now.
To be honest, because it is the fucking worst connection. I know it's wrong. Right, okay.
Well, if you really feel like it's going to be a shame to miss you for
right, I can barely hear you guys. Right, okay. What I think of this episode, well, I quite like Maisie Williams as an actress. She's really, really good. This isn't her best performance because she's kind of stuck as the typical kind of smug Stephen Moffat, you know, like that's all he does. He writes all his female characters from Clara to Shilda as just being like smug because he thinks that's empowering. So it's not the best performance, but yeah, I do quite like her. She does bring at least something to it. But overall, it feels like it's a good idea there, but it's too light. I mean, what Golden Age Geek said is true, but it's too flippant, like the bits where you see that she's, you know, like had all this loss. It's like the Doctor doesn't even seem that sympathetic.
I've kind of got to put my hand up here and go, well, you know, Maisie Williams, was she a little bit overrated at this point in her career?
Probably, because I think Game of Thrones was the most overrated TV.
All she really had was the Game of Thrones character behind her.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking that, you know, I haven't looked it up, but I haven't seen much of her in recent times.
Well,
I think took a dip when Game of Thrones Series 8 took a dive. It's like, who wants to touch that? Suddenly not such a hot property, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny, but the industry has moods, doesn't it?
Well, you see, the thing is, actually, I think she is good. What won me round to her, she's in a movie with Sylvester McCoy. I don't know, you guys probably haven't seen it. It's called The Owners, and it's about, she is part of this like sort of group of little, you know, horrible burglars who try and break in, but Sylvester McCoy and his wife actually turn out to be bigger psychos, and like the robbers then have to try and them. It's a really, Sylvester McCoy's excellent in it. He's a really creepy villain, but she's actually really, really good in it as well, because it's a difficult part to play, like, you know, someone who's a robber that you still feel sympathy for. And so, yeah, I think that's what kind of won me over on her. I mean, I've never liked Game of Thrones. I think it's kind of overrated cack that, you know, was eventually exposed as that. But I do quite like her as an actress. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just because she looks like Claudia Berlin a wee bit.
But,
like,
I mean, she was definitely she was definitely guest casting. It's like, ooh, Doctor Who's got the Game of Thrones girl this year. You know, there was the definite.
Oh yeah, yes,
definitely.
Was she actually the best actress to portray the concept of me? That's another question. I wasn't there.
Probably not. Actually,
it was better.
Yeah,
I don't think. Actually, I'll give you that. No.
Yeah.
You're right, and I agree. I don't think she was necessarily the best person to play me because I think she played it as a young woman. Like, if you're going to do that, like, look at Matt Smith. He was a young guy, but he played it as an old man.
You got to be able to play world weary. You got to look like time is on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And not just kind of have.
I mean, young people can do it. Young people like you ought to see Robbie Kay. He played Peter Pan in Once Upon a Time, who's meant to be a lot older than he actually is, and he did a superb job with that. So yeah, I'll give you that. I think Maisie Williams might have been a bit more limited at that point as an actress because she just played me as a young woman, basically. That's it.
Yeah.
Kind of like herself.
Yeah, played herself really.
Great acting.
You
know, I mean, I'm just basically questioning because I don't necessarily feel it worked that well. But you know, it wasn't terrible.
No, it wasn't
I thought the line was terrible as well.
But
the line was kind of lame for me. It looked like
it was
panto costume, to be honest.
Well, you know.
Also, so another point you said about. Another thing which I agreed with you on was sorry, I was just going to say about the dimension thing being created through the dimension thing being created through blood. That was very stupid, and to be honest, that to me felt like it's a recurring problem in New Who, where it's like they're not sci-fi writers. That's like something that should be in a fantasy. That's like something from Buffy. You need blood to create a portal to another world. It's not sci-fi. They're not sci-fi writers.
It absolutely, it sounds like Buffy. That's a brilliant comparison.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's where that kind of scripting belongs.
Yeah,
is in a show like that. You know, if it's Lockwood and Co, great. You know, make it as supernatural as you like, but that is not Doctor Who.
No,
it was just contrived, and the whole death of the idiot, whatever his name was. Sam Swift.
Sam Swift.
You know? Why would me have any attraction to a dickhead like that? I was living all these centuries.
Also,
she behaves like a stupid girl, trusting a fool like that, and that's the man she picks to be her partner. I don't buy it at all. But I lost a lot of respect for Me's character by making her make a clearly stupid decision.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
Is Maisie Williams not a bit young, ironically, for Rufus Hound who played him? I mean, Rufus Hound was he not my age, like in his 30s, and was she not like a teenager? It was a bit iffy that way, to be honest.
Yeah, it could be seen to be iffy that way. Absolutely. Yeah, but no, it's nah. I mean, it was. I like the historical bit. I like the settings.
See, I'm saying I watched this one, and the first 20 minutes I was quite enjoying the banter and stuff. I remember what this is like. You know, I'm into a bit of a Capaldi bant.
Yeah.
But to be honest, with the second half of the episode unfolded, I was just bored.
Yeah.
I really didn't engage with it. It was just, you know, ticking away the seconds until the titles came up. The second part of this was just flat to me. So I didn't get on with it that great. Now, let's see what Golden Age Geek thinks about it.
Well, I think I've already given my main thoughts.
I'm a bit off the plot today.
Pete Tong tonight.
Have we got anybody else who wants to pipe up about this one before we let's just say that.
I think we've pretty much covered it. I think we all feel roughly the same again.
And has chat had anything else to say about it? Something about the clogged toilets are bad.
Clogged toilets are bad. Yeah, it's just
you have to show old eyes or postures look old in your young body. Eastland's quite right about that.
Yeah, it is. Doesn't
Papa Laz hates Game of Thrones. It's a porno fanfic of fantasy. Look, I mean, what's the value? Oh, I'm going to do a Game of Thrones rewatch. No one does that anymore.
No one does that.
Because we all know where it goes.
No, it was so
bothered to sit through the last series.
Can I just say how annoyed I was with Game of Thrones? It was one of these things. No, I remember when it came out, everybody shat on every other fantasy thing, saying it wasn't proper fantasy compared to Game of Thrones. It was so fucking annoying, and it's so funny because now, like, barely even 10 years later, like, nobody watches it, nobody cares about it. It's like all these other fantasy things.
Game of Thrones is anti-fantasy, is deconstructed anti-fantasy.
Yeah,
you know, it takes everything which is decent and noble and inspiring about fantasy, and then rips it into bits.
Yep.
And then just goes, humans are shit, deal with it. That's Game of Thrones.
End of.
You know, so the great message of George R. R. Martin's writing is he hasn't really got a message of nihilism, and he can't be asked to do it that even because he's got the money, so up yours.
Kind of thing. Exactly that.
Basically.
Yeah, basically.
You know, I mean, yes. I think he's a creative who doesn't deserve fans.
No, he definitely doesn't. I remember a lot of people kept posting to him that clip from Family Guy. You know, they're working on that little novel. Like, they kept posting that to him because that sums up the situation. Look at that little novel you've been working on. You know, decent story. Well, I say as well,
he doesn't care. He does not care. And now his scrapbooks have been turned into another series. He cares even less.
Yes.
Well, let's do scores, and then we've got to see how we're doing. We're actually doing all right. Actually, we're only at now 40. Because I'm hoping we can get to the end of the Zygon 2-parter tonight.
Yes.
Because we've got 2 specials at the end of part of Series 9 to get in next week, so we get a nice fresh start to Series 10. So I think we're doing fine. We've got plenty of time at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the girl who lived, I'm so straight down the road about it. I'm going for a C again. They were both much of a much.
I'll agree. There again, middle of the road, nothing amazing. Interesting start, petered off at the end. So C pretty much covers how I feel about that as well. How about you, Burnshaw?
I'd give it a C as well. It doesn't deserve to be trashed as the absolute worst. It's just fairly kind of meh. You know, it's okay. It's not offensively bad, but it's okay.
Yeah. And how about you, Golden Age Geek?
It could have been a lot better if the last act had a good polish up and a think about it. Basically.
Yeah, true. Go then, Golden Age Geek. What do you think?
I'd probably give it a C+ because I gave the last one a C, and I do prefer the second more than the first, so I have to differentiate it a little bit.
Okay, that's cool. So again, we're pretty much looking at a C, middle of the road. 2 episodes, both middle of the road.
We've been very, 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 very average.
Yes, nothing amazing. So off to the next one then. This might be a little more interesting.
I've never understood. When is an invasion an inversion, an inversion an invasion?
Oh, don't start. Oh, dear me.
Are we invading the inversion or inverting the invasion? I'm not sure.
I've lost track.
But it all started off with some Zygons.
Yeah, it's the Zygons' fault.
Now, as you may recall, the Zygons made a return to Doctor Who in the Day of the Doctor.
They did indeed.
And at the sort of initial climax of that story, the first climax, so to speak, by messing with a mind-wiping device, the Doctor makes it so that no one actually knows who anybody is when the when Jenna Redgrave is arguing with Clara, actually, isn't it? It is Clara. Yeah,
it is Clara,
about blowing up the human race, and all
yes,
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the Doctor makes them forget who is who, so they go cancel the detonation. Right, I'm off to save Gallifrey. So basically, the Doctor left the Zygons in the hands of UNIT to deal with.
Yes,
and obviously, UNIT has a full ethics and diversity and inclusion training program.
Of course it does.
Because they decide that the best thing to do is to allow 20 million Zygons to live on Earth disguised as humans. And this means that there are two versions of the scientist Osgood.
Yes.
One of whom is a human, the other of whom is her Zygon duplicate.
Indeed.
And they came together to help make a peace treaty.
Right, yes.
But, of course, the villainous Missy exterminated one of the Osgoods in the cargo plane in Death in Heaven.
Yes.
As a result, no one is sure if it's the human or the Zygon Osgood who is the remaining one, but in order to protect the secret of which one they are, they go on the run. Because some of the Zygons, basically, they're getting itchy suckers. And they think that second-class lives living as human copies isn't really good enough, and they should have a better deal. So they want to have a bit of a revolution and take over all humans.
Yes.
So this is a splinter group of brackets terrorist Zygons.
Yes.
And while all this is going on, Clara gets replaced by one of these Zygons, and Kate Stewart leads. You think she's on her way to kind of expose them, but instead she gets kind of tricked and captures herself. But meanwhile, the Doctor rescues the Osgood from captivity in Turkmenistan.
Yeah.
And they are on a plane back to London, but Bonnie, i.e. Zygon Clara, is standing on the edge of a cliff just as they happen to be flying over. This is, of course, tremendously convenient.
Absolutely.
But nevertheless, it happens, and the first episode ends with a missile being fired at the plane the Doctor and Osgood are travelling in. Dun, 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 dun. What will happen next week? Will the Zygon take over fail? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well,
Dobby's making unconvinced sounds.
No, I didn't enjoy this. I really didn't. I really did not enjoy this one at all. It was no. It was I just didn't. It's all too.
I think we have to talk about the wokeness of the plot.
You think?
Yes. This
Lord.
was a little bit of an unsubtle asylum seekers metaphor.
You think it was? Yes, of course it was. Even taking place in New Mexico. How convenient.
So unsubtle that if you actually stopped to think it through, it would scare the pants out of you from the idea of ever taking asylum seekers ever.
Yes.
But nevertheless.
Yes, we shall carry on. No, it was.
Surface to air guided missiles are just by little conversation.
Yes, it's one way of getting your point across. Yes. And to be conveniently in the right place at the right times, also.
I struggled with the idea that hiding 20 million Zygons on Earth was a notion that anyone would entertain at all.
Of course.
And the story struggles to make a clear moral point because it so clearly is a very bad idea.
It's an exceedingly bad idea.
So this story kind of feels a bit like it's trying to swim uphill through treacle from the start. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's kind of like you're immersed in it, but where's it going? And is this kind of actually any fun? It kind of, I remember part one especially makes me kind of feel like that. But let's hear other people's opinions.
I think we'll go Burrinjaw this time first.
Okay. Well, sorry, you can hear me now properly.
Yeah, it's fine. Carry on.
Okay, good. Sorry, it's been terrible, this connection to the stream. But anyway, yes, overall, I kind of agree with a lot of your criticisms, to be honest. The message is really, the fact that they have Osgood in an ISIS video, that really takes the cake, as they say. And there's some really cringe-making bits. Like, do you remember the bit with remember the bit where the Zygon disguises itself as one of the unit soldiers' mothers? That bit is just, oh my! I know unit soldiers are meant to be stupid, but seriously, like that's one of the most painful bits in it.
It's my mum in there.
It's my mum.
It's my mum. Mummy.
Also, I just say the unit. Another area that this one falls down in regards to its woke crap is that there's a Rebecca Front being cast as the unit soldier is just ridiculous. I mean, just to be clear, I like Rebecca Front. I think she's a fantastic comedy actress. Like, but to cast her as this like tough, hard as nails, grizzled soldier, it just looks so out of place. And I mean, again, I'm not saying you couldn't cast a woman as a soldier, obviously not, but like to cast like, you know, to someone her size who's like so it's just ridiculous.
I'm just going to reply to Sadako for a moment here because he says, actually, I think that mum scene was quite effective. It shows how Zygons might operate by using psychology. Yes, if it was mugging ordinary member of the public, it's not supposed to work on battle-trained, hardened unit hit squads.
No, not really. No,
you know,
and the idea
it's supposed to have the emotional security to know that it's not his damn mum. Yeah, it's like. But I mean, I agree. It works on the audience thinking, "Cool, it could make you think it was your mum," you know. But really. Sorry,
but even then, oh no, I completely agree. I'm just going to say, like, I can believe he might feel uncomfortable killing it, but to go into the church unarmed because it asks him to, that's where it's just too stupid.
No, not at all. Any alien wants to go impersonating my mum, watch out, it's for it.
Oh, yeah.
How dare you impersonate my mum? Bang! I'll teach you. Shapeshifters again, Brigadier.
The only thing that I liked about this, I really like Ingrid Oliver, but I'll talk a bit more about that in the next episode. Honestly, I think she has better chemistry and just goes better with Peter Capaldi than Jenna Coleman ever did, because there's more of a kind of father-daughter relationship there between him and Osgood. There's not like, you know, the kind of creepy romance thing they tried with him and Clara. So yeah, really, I'll talk a bit more about why I think she should have been a good companion. But other than that, I don't really have much to say about this episode that hasn't been covered. Let's talk
about the Zygons. Let's talk about the Zygons. The Zygons are beloved by me. The terror of the Zygons.
Oh yes, that's a great story.
I've been considering that that we're going to do some special streams at the end of the run. To wrap up. And if Moffat hadn't have brought the Zygons back, if it did a stream, sort of one-off monsters but really stand out or something, the classic Zygons would be right up there. And Day of the Doctor didn't exactly capture them.
No, it didn't really.
And I think these Zygons are a step even further away.
They look awful. That's the funny thing. They look so much worse.
And they think far too human.
Yes, way too human.
Definitely. By the way, another thing I agree. Sorry, I wanted to agree with you about the premise, the idea that you dump 20 million aliens who fought in the Time War on Earth, and that they'd just be happy, going to 9-to-5 jobs, working in like corner shops or call centers. It's a joke.
Yeah,
it doesn't say a lot about what you think about asylum seekers, really. Because I mean, for the sake of it, let's have a brief discussion about the real world issue, right? Which is, I have always been proud of our national history of giving asylum to those who've been persecuted.
Yeah,
and I could think of nothing that makes me more proud to think back at the times where Europe was governed by tyranny, not just once, but on multiple occasions, and it was England or Britain that was the bastion of freedom. So I could not be more proud of our tradition of caring for those who need asylum. But there are buts, and one of the most important buts is the ability to actually do that properly. Because when you bring in somebody who needs asylum, especially if they're coming from a war zone, that person has very real needs that need very real resources to meet. And if you just ignore those needs and just warehouse them in council flats with no life to speak of to actually live, don't be surprised if you get a mess. So I suppose in that way, the Zygon story is trying to tell a truth.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to tell about how actually we have completely under-resourced asylum seekers and there's nothing there for them whatsoever apart from a bit of dole money.
Well, I agree completely.
That's a disgrace. But part of the problem is that our culture has eliminated the distinct meaning of asylum seeker to mean anyone who doesn't want to be poor who can get here. And that has overloaded everything. So now the public has no respect for the principle of asylum because all they see are people coming here getting what they view, rightly or wrongly, as largesse from the state at a time that everyone's struggling to pay their mortgages. Of course it's social friction. Of course it's social sand. But when we don't have a government which is prepared to take seriously the need to make provision to do these things, and all the costs of those failures are dumped on the lower section of society in towns and cities across the nation, it's not surprising we're where we're at now. Because what a lot of the people who object to the current situation with the, well, they're saying it could even be 750,000 people coming in totally illegally on these boats, paying people traffickers to do so. If we really are at 750,000 illegal entrants to the UK this year, well, that's a system in absolute disrepute. And I'm afraid there aren't any easy answers because there's no sign of any government who's prepared to take it seriously. So it's just going to get worse until we reach a crisis point where we stop paying these funds out to support the people coming in, and the message gets out that they need to go somewhere else. And then they will, because that's what happens with opportunists.
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
I mean, a lot of people who've been coming in across the southern border of the United States are coming from China and India.
Yep.
They're not exclusively coming from South America. They are tourists looking for an opportunity where they can get into a Western nation by bypassing all kinds of controls and systems, and look at the problems which are starting to destroy American society. Fentanyl, that stuff is utter poison.
Yep.
And now it's here, it's in Stoke-on-Trent and cities across the Northern Midlands. And with human wreckage that we're going to see, because when you have uncontrolled immigration, you have uncontrolled exploitation.
Amen. Amen to that.
So, for the points that the show were trying to make, from my point of view, are quite inadequate at really defining the challenges being faced by society. And until we can at least accept that there is a limit to how much good things we could do, and we must do good things within our limits and work to expand our limits rather than create a disaster, until we've got that amount of common sense before us, we cannot fix this problem at all. And it won't matter who you vote for.
Amen.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, that a lot of that I agree with. But I mean, I was also going to say just about the episode that, I mean, I completely agree. It does not tackle that issue adequately. And see, to be honest, I don't think it ever could. Because see, trying to use, shape-shifting reptile monsters as a metaphor for immigrants, it's like no matter what way you try and swing that, that's going to come over as offensive to the immigrants, that they're these, creepy, hostile aliens. Like, it's just don't go there, it's not the type of thing that you should really be doing in Doctor Who in that respect. It's too sensitive an issue. I mean, the Daleks are fine because they're based on the Nazis, so everyone hates. But like something like this that's very complex, I don't actually think you could.
Eastland has just commented, should immigrants assimilate? Interesting idea, but left off the page of the script. Because it is kind of, the Zygons are kind of left alone to try and work it out themselves, aren't they? They've not exactly got social workers checking in on them. And it's quite clear from the examples we see, a lot of the Zygons simply are not coping at all. I mean, that one Zygon who's like living as a spotty, dirty Herbert. I feel very sorry for the guy. That's part of the price that's being paid, isn't it? And I can understand the anger, actually, of the Zygon terrorists. Did we really put up our weapons for this? I mean, that's also is a very human reaction. Although, of course, but the end result is brilliant. I mean, I think is it 6-7 minutes? The end sequence of part. Have we gotten to part 2 yet? Sorry, I'm not with the plot today.
We're still on part 1.
We're still on part 1. Let's score part 1 and talk about part 2. That sounds a good idea.
That sounds like a really good idea. Yes,
that sounds a really good idea.
Okay. Golden Age Geek, is there anything you want to say about it?
But we better see what Golden Age Geek says first. That is also a really good idea.
Yes, that's an excellent idea.
I've never wanted to stand in the way of a good idea, Gobby.
No, indeed not. So far away, Golden Age
Geek.
Well, when I first saw this, I didn't have any of the current day topics in my head to think about and link this episode to. But hearing all of that, it does totally change my perspective of the episode. And again, as we've said, there's so many routes they could have gone down, but a lot of things they did that didn't work in terms of the story and didn't work in terms of the messaging they were doing. The one scene in particular with the unit soldiers, that was just absolutely pathetic. I mean, even if they wanted to convince the unit soldiers that these were members of their family, the whole point that in this church, every single person is a family member of each of the unit officers there, coincidentally, that should be instant red flags. It's like, oh, you're my mum. Oh, and you're my dad. Oh, you're my mum. And they just keep on. It's like a massive line. And they're all like, oh, I know you. I know you. I know you. So surely there should be some red flags in their head going, like, why are all these people, like, why does each of them have some sort of link to each of us? Like, it's just stupid what they did. But again, as we've said multiple times, the writers for New Who and how they treat Unit is absolutely abysmal.
Yeah, it is disgusting.
And this should have been a sort of classic Unit story like they did, way back when. But it just, it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've never been happy with the way they treated Unit in New Who at all. They treat them like they're complete. Yeah.
Yeah. This story is the worst sinner for it. And it's funny, I remember one of the first, or maybe the first stream of Golden Age Geek came on with us. He specifically asked us how we felt about Unit.
Yeah, he did.
And his treatment in the modern era. And here we have arrived at the worst violator, really, because, you know, it's just ridiculous.
It is.
It is.
Massive. Absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible the way they treat units on this one. It's just unbelievable. It really is. Yeah.
Well, let's hold off. Should we hold off the scores and talk about part 2 first, and then do the scores for the whole thing, and then we'll be wrapping up?
Well,
so that sounds like an idea.
Yeah, well, that's what we've done on all the others. So let's crack on.
Yeah, we'll do it. Let's do it the same way we've done the others.
Yes,
that's brilliant. Right?
That'll work. That'll work.
The clarity is unfolding before me, and you know what was invaded is now inverted.
Indeed.
Because you know, and now I see that clearly because it's just in front of my mind as the Doctor and Osgood escaped the plane just before it was shut down. No one saw that escape coming.
No one.
Oh boy. Okay. Now, within Clara's mind, Bonnie learns that the Osgood box is held at UNIT's Black Archives.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to get hold of it because, against the wishes of the Zygons who aren't aligned with the terrorists, Bonnie wants to start her war against humanity, and she wants to do that by using the Osgood box to destroy the disguise of 20 million Zygons, knowing that when 20 million Zygons pop up amongst the human populace, it'll freak people the heck out. And it will start a panic and a get the aliens kind of xenophobia thing.
Yeah.
So she reckons that she can bait the humans into an all-out war against the Zygons, and then they can crack out the big guns and really clean up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
But Clara is fighting back telepathically against Bonnie's control because it's Clara and she can.
Yes.
And she alerts the Doctor to where she and Kate are. And then the Doctor then gets hold of Kate first, I think, who then joins the Doctor and Osgood, and the three of them go to the Black Archive.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Where Bonnie has discovered that there isn't an Osgood box.
There's 2.
There are 2 Osgood boxes. And she's not happy about this and wants to know what's the real one, and she wants to know right now. So a discussion ensues. And Bonnie and Kate Lethbridge-Stewart take up positions on opposite sides of the table. And the Doctor goes, aha, here we go, everybody. We're off. And he does this fantastic speech where he's explaining that the boxes are nothing more but a scale model of war.
Yep.
And that the way that they keep the peace is by making you realise that the best thing to do is never use them.
Yep.
And this speech about how much it would really, really hurt if you actually did it is so overwhelming that Bonnie and Kate step back from being prepared to push their buttons. And the Doctor says, stop being stupid, work it out, the pair of you. End of episode.
Yeah. Oh, that speech. Oh, dear Lord, that speech.
I find it funny, really, how with these Capaldi episodes, you can sum up the ending so easily. I've done that on multiple stories tonight.
Yes, they literally are and done.
That is it. Yeah, stop being stupid, the end.
Yeah, done, finished.
Because what they have to do is they have to set up the deal they already had and make it work. So all
really
the
nothing changes.
All the Zygons just give up and nothing changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very silly.
it's just like
I also want to point out that Stephen Moffat's pen did touch this script.
Indeed.
He was upset that he didn't get credit for the final speech, Stephen Moffat, believe it or not. I mean,
oh, really?
Yeah.
But
I know he should have been glad. I'd have blamed the speech.
Why don't you try writing a story, Moffat, not a speech?
Yes. It would help. It would help, wouldn't it?
I know. I'm sorry. Everyone was on about how, and I don't know what. I know before we all go into it, what were you guys like? All of your opinion in the speech, because everyone singles that out. I've seen so many fan groups saying that's one of the classic moments in Doctor Who. Personally, I thought it was a load of overwrought, overwritten, like hippie bullshit. To be honest,
it's as pretentious as all hell.
Oh God! And again, I don't think
it's
Peter
just
Capaldi
beautifully acted.
So I don't know if
but it is pretentious as all hell. Yeah. I don't think it lands, to be honest. I have shown that people that speech and said, this is what Capaldi's Doctor was like. And they went, oh. You know, I think it lands with fans because it plays into the fantasy of the Doctor of this all-powerful figure that some fans have really bought into with New Who. So I think if you're looking for something that backs that up, this speech really does do that. But if you show it to Joe Schmo without the context, it's a bit flapping. And with the context, it's a great speech in an average episode.
See, to be honest, I mean, actually, you raised another point I want to go to a second. But I also want to say again, I don't think this is one of Peter Capaldi's best moments in the role, because I think, again, it's not playing to his strengths. Like, it's having him go into this big flowery, like, you don't know who's going to die and all that stuff.
The thing is, it doesn't convince me for one moment that Bonnie would give a shit.
Yeah, I know exactly. Bonnie would just shoot him, like, seriously.
Bonnie would just push the fucking button. Get out of the way, old man. Oh, fuck you, Grandad.
I know.
Because Bonnie represents the brave modern revolutionary. The last thing they do is listen to reason.
And Bonnie's already said she doesn't care if her people die, just as long as they die as themselves. So as if she's going to think, oh no, people are actually going to die.
It is a bit of a price to pay, isn't it? So you have to suspend your disbelief to believe that the speech works.
Sorry, but just another thing that you raised there that I agree with was that it only appeals to fans, and it's funny because I think just the thing about Series 9 in general that is so funny because this was the period, like we saw the beginnings of it in Series 8, but this was the period that came into full swing where New Who became exclusively for the tiny little minority of, kind of woke fans.
When the show takes a swerve, it swerves into the fans. Season 8 was a bit rocky. Season 9 goes into the fan service. Season 11 was extremely rocky, going into the fan service. Way overboard on Series 12. It's an attempt, of course, correct. But when you look at it in the context, years later, it just looks awkward and unconfident.
But what's also funny is that the same fans it was pandering to, they were always the ones that would go on about how, we can't make it like Classic Who because that would only appeal to a tiny minority of people. But here they did exactly that. They made it appeal to only a tiny minority of people. I'd say to an even greater extent than that ever was in Classic Who. And yeah, that speech is a shining example of it.
Papa Laz says all of it is a 14-year-old boy's idea of a political story.
Perfect summation, I think. Perfect.
I find that a very interesting comment because, just earlier today I said that in my view, Doctor Who should be pitched at the intelligence of the average 14-year-old. But, that's still no reason to go around insulting it. But yeah, great comment. Yeah. Sadako says it's still better than Warriors of the Deep. I'm gonna fight you.
Don't take Sadako on with that. He hates Warriors of the Deep as much as I love Osgood.
Sure, we've discussed Warriors in the past. Yes.
As much as I love Osgood, he hates Warriors of the Deep. Like, seriously.
Dear. Sadako also said a bit earlier on, by New Who standards, this is progress in its portrayal of Unit. Usually they're presented as trigger happy, here they're shown as bleeding hearts, which RTD Moffat would approve of. Bleeding, they're bleeding all right, they're bleeding out.
Yeah. They're just turned to dust.
Dead. Oh dear.
I will say
Sadako says he's a better moral dilemma than Warriors of the Deep. Is it though?
I will say that this story, I don't think the second part is as bad as the first. I think it's got some good points. Like for once, Kate actually does something. She doesn't just go on about her dad. Like, she actually does think of her way out of a situation. Also, again, I do like the team of Osgood and the 12th.
There's a comment here from Papalaz. I think this one's for you, Berenjaw.
Osgood,
are you still with me? I'm going to assume you are. Osgood is another immortal Mary Sue. How many are?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I can see, I'm fair. I can see why he'd say that because Osgood, it's the usual Stephen Moffat thing, isn't it? She was killed and now she's back. So what the fuck was the point of killing her? And there is the Stephen Moffat thing as well of he can't have the Doctor be the smartest one because then he's worried he'll look like a sexist. So Osgood has to kind of, show him up at every opportunity. So I'll give him that. That's a fairly valid complaint. But overall, I think like Osgood would have been a better companion than Clara. As I've said, her and Journey Blue together, I think would have been good companions because they both have had more clear dynamics with the Doctor. One would have been like his fan, another would have clashed with him. Oh, sorry, where's John gone?
Yeah, John's just disappeared. I don't know what happened there. Perhaps he's lost his connection. So just carry on.
I was going to say, and also I think it would have been good because you would have cut out the soap opera element, because if you went back to their home lives, one's fighting Daleks in the future, the other works for UNIT, so it would have been a sci-fi thing. So I've often thought, this was just my headcanon, but I thought it would have been quite cool if Osgood's mother had been the girl that looks like Osgood in Resurrection of the Daleks, the one that gets shot in the back, who looks so like her. And that was why she married the Doctor, because he, fights Daleks that killed her mother. I think that would have been quite a good way to link them up. But yeah, I admit, I do just like the actress as well, so I'm a bit biased. But overall, I think she's probably the highlight of it, but it's not a good script. It is definitely a 14-year-old's idea, or a Rick from the Young Ones idea of edgy political stuff,
Interesting. So what do you think, Golden Age Geek?
Well, as I say, compiling my thoughts from the previous episode with this one, I think overall the political aspect of the episode doesn't really work that well. But I've always considered the speech to be a highlight. If you take it out and don't consider everything else surrounding the episode, I think it's very good. But yeah, I think when you ask a lot of people their thoughts about this episode, they just go to that speech and just form their opinion around that. But if you consider everything else, again, it's just a complete mismatch. You have like Clara in a weird sort of mind cage. It's, and she's in her house, but it's all boarded up, and she's taking control of the Zygon's eyelids. Just weird things going on. And again, they do the classic Moffat thing of nothing's explained. There's no definitive answer. Who's who? Oh, she's this and also this at the same time. It's some weird riddle that is, it sounds like something Yoda would say to you, and you're just like, what? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I am back. Sorry, I had a brownout, so I missed a minute or so of the conversation. But on the topic of the speech, there's a few of the comments that are talking about it. Sadako said, "I think you're all mad. I think Capaldi performed the speech brilliantly. It convinced me."
I actually haven't said anything about the speech yet, so I can't.
We've also got Sadako saying Capaldi's speech is great, except it happens in 2015 when the existence of enemies like ISIS, but you simply can't sit down and talk with previous words hollow. Look, I want to be clear. I love the speech. Right? If you take that and you take it as a snippet, I'm a Doctor Who fan. Of course, I adore it. It speaks to the Doctor's pain and the suffering of the Time War and his love and how much he's suffered to save Gallifrey over the eons, how much he's lost, but he can't even begin to imagine, to feel that pain. Yeah, of course I absolutely love it, right? It works on me and it worked on you. My point is, I don't believe it would work on Bonnie.
No,
and that's
not
where
at all.
that falls down. That's where this falls down. So that speech out of that context, say if you could melt the heart of the world's greatest dictator with it, I'm all for it, right? But the reality is, story-wise, it was just a lot of air, and then the story ends. That's just how it came across to me when I'm trying to separate the acting and the emotion of that speech away from the actual function with the way the episode unfolds. So that's basically I think the most I have to say on it. But that's why it doesn't work for me in the context of the episode.
Peter Capaldi tends to change accents a bit in this series for some reason. There's a world fingers on buzzers, and he does that when he's talking to Davros. I don't know why, but I'm glad he didn't do that again after series 9. I thought that was maybe Michelle Gomez told him that was a good thing to do because that's what she does.
To relate to Americans. No.
And mentioning Davros, the entire speech does seem kind of redundant when you think back to the premiere in the first 2 part of the season, because the Doctor's message in his speech that you should never use violence, just sit down and talk. He should know from, the first 2 episodes that trying to reason with Davros wasn't the way to go. They had to bloody turn the entire insane Daleks on each other in order to get the result.
Exactly.
Missy had to shoot a snake or the Doctor was dead.
Exactly.
So when you stop and think back, the speech, if taken like that, doesn't make any sense, really, does it? Even though it's a great speech, it doesn't fit.
Look, he's old now. He gets a bit confused. All right.
Well,
that's what you're left with.
Well, yeah,
when you're trying to reconcile these things.
But no.
He has days he's really quite grumpy and cross with everyone. The other days he's like totally mellow. Just depends where you catch him, and either wipe your species out with a flick of his finger, or elevate you to enlightenment. It's one of the two.
It depends on his day. It depends on, and that could be like in the morning, and then in the afternoon he can change like that. You never know.
And then another dimension to this 2-parter is, of course, Clara.
Yes, of course.
By making Clara into an even more annoying character, it actually made Clara look a bit better in this part.
Well, he kind of does, yeah.
I didn't like Jenna Coleman's performance as Bonnie. I thought that's probably one of her weakest acting performances in that episode, to be honest, because she tries too hard to be vampish and sexy, and it's like, really, Zygons shouldn't be sexy,
No, never.
And also, I'm not saying like a feminist here, but I'm fed up with the way female villains always have to be sexy, if you know what I mean. It feels a bit demeaning. It's like, by all means, have some like that, but like, have a female foe that can be like Davros, that can be like a horrible monster that's doesn't have to. Whereas trying to vamp up Bonnie, I just felt it was it was a bit of a
and of course the pointless deaths in this story. No biochips for them.
No. Only got two.
Only mortal.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny to think at the end Bonnie takes the other Osgood's place, right? So she'll be working alongside like friends of the people that she killed, the people that she turned into dust from Unit, like who was the wee one that was a sort of Osgood with glasses that got burned at the end of the.
But she said she's good now.
No, it's all right then. It's all right then. As long as you say it at the end. Yeah,
you're all convinced. The Doctor gave a speech, and now she's good.
Yeah,
okay, that's fine.
It's the same as it's the same
Sorry,
as bloody.
That is what we're asked to believe, isn't it? The Doctor gave a speech. Now she's good.
Yeah, basically. So, what were you going to say, Golden Age Geek?
It's the same as Reva in Kenobi. It's like she goes and hacks a bunch of kids, and then she's like, "Oh, I'll do better now."
Yeah, I'm all right now.
And also thinking about it, the Doctor in that speech is kind of the world's biggest hypocrite because, his message, no violence. Let's just all sit down, talk very calmly. A few episodes, going in with Face the Raven, he's like, right, Ashildra, I'm going to get the Daleks, I'm going to get the Cybermen, I'm going to line them up, they're going to shoot you.
That's right. That's right. He threatens to bring genocidal monsters for a camp of refugees.
That speech got forgotten very quickly, didn't it?
Okay. Look, I must admit, when we sat down to do this stream tonight, I really hadn't thought far ahead to this Saigon story. I hadn't thought about how I might react to it, but I didn't see it coming that we would actually end up, sort of dunking on this speech as hard as we have. But it totally deserves it.
It does.
Cold light of day. Looking at it objectively, which I think, I made a tweet when we put out the first part of Part 8, to say that we're moving on to the Capaldi era. And that I was glad we were going to be taking a bit more extra time with it as well, because it occurred to me that with all the fuss of the Chibnall era, fandom never properly got to assess and review what the Capaldi era had given us. There was too much noise and everything else going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it struck me that actually we need to sit down and talk about these episodes. And what we're finding is that some of the things that we believe fans think about these episodes aren't necessarily what fans really do believe. And I think that this Capaldi speech could well be one of them.
Yes.
And maybe it's something we could explore with some exploratory tweets and see how the wider Doctor Who community might open up in a discussion about it, because it's been really one of the most interesting things from tonight is to discover we've got a view which is a bit more open.
Yes.
And I like that. I think that's a great achievement for the stream. Well done, boys.
Yes.
Capaldi was abandoned, undermined fact. I agree with that fact.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It was completely. He was a stopgap Doctor until they could get a female Doctor. That's all they treated him as. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was absolutely terrible how it was treated.
I don't think they meant to set out that way, but it's very quickly what it became, especially when the show was getting slammed as sexist and racist.
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
Hollywood Reporter. This was very serious stuff at the time. But of course, don't expect BBC Doctor Who to tell you about it. So that's why a lot of fans to this day don't understand what was going on in the background at this time. And it's, again, something that these streams have been able to help provide some education and insight about.
But one thing, one thing, I completely agree with you, what you said earlier. I'd just like to expand a bit on that, about how, thanks to the Jodie era, there was never really a proper reassessment of the Peter Capaldi era. And a part of me wonders if that was deliberate on Stephen Moffat's part, if he chose Chris Chibnall to follow him because he knew he would be so shit, because Stephen Moffat's reputation.
Well, if social media hadn't filled with deranged people, engaged in a years-long witch hunt to drive older fans, because let's admit it, that's who we're really talking about, away.
Oh, yeah.
That's what disrupted what would otherwise have taken place.
It did, yeah. But at the same time, Stephen Moffat should have been stronger. He shouldn't have pandered to that fandom so much. And again, I think by the end of Peter Capaldi's era, he knew that. He knew that he was going to go down as the guy.
Of course, Moffat was challenged. When Jodie was cast, Moffat was challenged on not casting a female Doctor sooner. And there is an article, I believe it was a feature article of The Independent, well worth seeking out, because in it, Moffat gives the famous quote, at least it's famous to me, that Doctor Who isn't just for liberal progressives, it's for people who voted Brexit too.
Yeah, but he said that. He did not put that into practice when he ran the show. He absolutely did not.
I think he did as much as he could.
Oh, so I didn't mean that to be rude. I do.
I don't think it was all one way. I mean, some of the jokes weren't one way. There was definitely stuff in there that didn't make me feel like I was being shoved away. Quite the opposite to what how the marketing has been for Doctor Who since 2018.
Well, I admit
and
that.
how the marketing for Doctor Who still is this very week.
Stephen Moffat. Oh, sorry, I just saw Sadako there. Yeah, of course. Fucking Paul Cornell tweeting in disgust that it shouldn't have been another white male.
Oh.
Can I just say how much I hate Paul Cornell so much? He is everything.
No, Paul,
wrong.
it didn't get you a writing gig at the new showrunner. You weren't.
Ha ha.
Yeah.
Wanker he is.
Go spend your money on your teeth. Oh.
But I mean,
sorry. I know not everyone's happy with that insult, but he bloody gob gets me.
Well, I'm sorry. I just don't.
I can't look at the man.
But I mean, no, I agree with you. I think Stephen Moffat was he wasn't a prick. I don't think Stephen Moffat's a bad guy, by the way, at all, just to be clear.
Oh, I think he is a prick. Yeah, I mean, he's not that kind of prick. You know?
Yeah, okay. He's not a prick.
He's a self-centered, smug, opinionated liberal prick. Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
What I mean is, I don't think he was like Paul Cornell, Chris Chibnall.
No, he's not that kind of prick. Absolutely.
No,
he's not
I think
that
he was
kind.
pushed. He was pushed into doing a lot of the SJW crap, but he still did it.
He had to.
I think by the end. No, he should have walked. But I think that by the end, he knew that his reputation was in ruins, like among Doctor Who fans.
I think he's staying because he's protecting the show.
Yeah, I think he chose Chibnall. It's kind of like, in Claudius, how Tiberius knows he's going to be hated, so he chooses Caligula to make people think, oh well, at least when Caligula's around, they'll think, oh god, I miss Tiberius. I think that's what Stephen Moffat, perhaps, I'm not saying for sure, I think perhaps that was his idea with Chibnall, and it fucking worked because, as you say, no one looks back at the Capaldi era as the disaster it should have been, because the Jodie era was such a disaster. So yeah,
well,
I think
we have given up talking about a lot of stuff we weren't happy with before, because the general awakening has happened, and people go, God, we've got plenty to moan about now. I mean, that's been the situation, but it's just now we're sitting down and spending time and thinking about these episodes and talking about them. I think we're getting a bit more of an honest picture of how good or not they are. Yeah. Because we all say Capaldi's a great Doctor, and he is. I just love him as the Doctor. But God, what I wouldn't give for a 2-hour movie with Capaldi as the Doctor and a decent 60s plot.
Yeah, agreed. Imagine
it was a real shame.
It was.
I mean, if you'd have given me my sort of choice, I would have made a movie with Capaldi and remade Web Planet.
That's an interesting
Done something
idea.
very alien and mysterious and different with him. Where he could really be this different kind of person. And have a young human couple who look after each other, go with him, so that they don't have to have him keep them out of danger all the time. Just do something like that as a 2-hour movie. It would have been fabulous.
It would have been amazing. It would have been amazing.
But the will to deliver the stories that the 12th Doctor needed was never properly there. It was always being compromised. And yes, the BBC diversity policy was a huge part of it, because you could bet that the plot points from this story were all going towards ticking the boxes to scoring enough points this year.
Yeah.
Even back then.
Of course, back then. The policy started in 2011.
Yeah, it certainly did. 2011 was the time.
So this is what, 2015?
Yeah.
2015, yeah.
So well in swing. This is a year after Doctor Who's been slammed as sexist and racist in the Hollywood Reporter. This is the response season.
Yeah. It certainly is.
And the response wasn't strong enough. They had to have another go and do it in Series 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and put an ambiguous bisexual android and a lesbian in there.
Indeed.
Who's black, by the way. In case you
is Nardole bisexual? I didn't know that.
Well, who is he? What is he?
Well, he's a yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't pay much notice.
I mean, he's fair to sort of be. I am the one who isn't anything. Think of what you like, but it's Matt Lucas who's like the gay in the village, so it's not exactly a gay character. He's not overtly a gay character. It has a female love interest in his final story. seem to be kind of bisexual-ish, presumably.
Who knows?
Yeah, kind of play that way.
Maybe.
You know, yeah. But that's another season, so we're not talking about that now. We've got to watch the time.
Yes.
Very briefly, you mentioned Caligula.
Yes.
And I must say, something extraordinary has happened. The original 1970s Caligula movie has just been re-released, but there's not one single frame in this re-release that was in the original.
Oh,
It's a complete recut out of over 136 hours of footage.
Bloody hell.
wow.
Yes. And it's just been released in France next month.
Oh.
And apparently it's a completely different story because there was just so much shot for Caligula. There was so many different versions of the script, you know, and it won't have the same excesses that the other was famous for.
It may be a
bit
good
more
film,
of a
then.
serious movie, yeah, because Malcolm McDonald's performance in that film was extraordinary.
John Hurt's still the best Caligula for me. When John Hurt is Caligula.
Peter O'Toole as Augustus. No, Tiberius.
John Hurt is Caligula to me is like Mark Hamill is the Joker. It's just the absolute, like, you know, pinnacle of how
that's from the BBC I Claudius, isn't it?
Yeah. So say John Hurt.
Patrick Stewart was in that as well.
He was.
Technically, that was a doctor killing a captain of the Enterprise. Is John Hurt's the one that has Patrick Stewart's character executed? So
it's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah. Get rid of all of them. Yeah. And of course, the Master was the main protagonist.
That's right. Yes. Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
The 2 Time Warrior ones.
All right, let's try and sum up this invaded inversion with some scores.
Yeah, let's get some scores.
So let me see. Part 1, C.
Yeah.
Part 2, D.
Ooh, interesting. But I will go part 1, C. Part 2, D plus.
Oh, you had to stretch for it.
Yeah, I did. I had to stretch.
What gave it the plus, Gobby? Come on. What gave it the plus?
Jenna Coleman.
Oh, fuck. Jenna Coleman with a missile launcher. Fair enough. You can have that one.
I mean, come on. You got a missile launcher. Jesus.
Golden Age Geek. What do you reckon? Oh, we don't know. We don't know what he reckons at the moment. Bonejaw.
Okay, well, I'm going to give both parts a C. I like Ingrid Oliver getting more screen time, you know. She is a really good actress. Do you guys know that? Have you ever watched Peep Show?
No.
Some of it.
I just say because her character in that is so different to Osgood. It's quite
was there
funny.
more than one season of that?
Oh, give it 8.
Oh, God. Yeah. I won't watch the first season.
All right. Well, I mean, it's not important. I'm just saying that's proof of what range she has because you'd never think it was Osgood. But anyway, well, she elevates. So other than that, yeah, it's a pretty.
Oh no, hang on, I've got mixed up. I'm thinking of that with the Phoebe Waller-Bridge thing, Fleabag.
Oh yeah, no, it's not that.
No. I only saw one season of Fleabag. I think I might have seen that. Yes, but it's a bit distant. I'll try and remind myself.
Just to let you know, Golden Age Geeks has just been hit by the connection bug today.
What's wrong, man, with it?
This one's just not been everything that could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, they're all coming in from different time-space continuums on this one.
Yeah, it's just the problem, isn't it? Yes.
I hope I didn't ruin anything earlier because there were parts
not at all.
There were parts where I was talking and I wasn't sure if I was coming through. And then it looked like I was talking when I wasn't. The thing was flashing. So, I mean, it was, and I didn't know if I was a few minutes behind. So, sorry if I ended up, talking over everything.
I think it was just one of those streams, I think.
Do we know if Golden Age Geek is going to be able to make it back?
I don't know.
I think we're going to have to assume that he isn't because it really is time we wrapped up.
I
Yes,
actually
it is.
contemplated in the middle. I remember I said I might have to call it a night earlier in this because the connection's so
No,
bad.
you stuck it out. That's the right thing to do.
And we made it in the end. We got there in the end.
Yeah,
It
Yeah,
was-
we got there in the end. It's another one done. So I will just say to everybody, thank you so much for being with us, and we will join you next week when we will start out by sleeping no more.
Indeed.
That's been the Doctor Who sleepers have awoken.
They have
Watch out, BBC.
Golden Age Geek is actually trying to get back, but none of his devices are now connected. So
Ah,
No.
bollocks to poor boy. Yes.
yeah, it's
Good
gone.
luck
So,
next week.
Yeah,
Right, we'll see you all again.
Yes, see
Thank
all
you so
soon.
much, Kobe. Thank you, Virgil.
No worries
You're
at all.
welcome. Thanks for having me again.
You're more than welcome, and I'll catch you all next week, same time, same place. Good night,
Okay,
everyone. Oh. Right then, we all there? Hello.
Hi, I'm
Hey,
here.
Kobe.
Am I
Oh, yeah,
back?
it makes it back.